The ever-relevant Gita, a present-day rendering. Have you ever felt the urge to delve into the wisdom of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, but found yourself daunted by the complexity of traditional interpretations and verse numbers? Perhaps you've wondered if it's a book reserved for the religious and the pious. The truth is, the Srimad Bhagavad Gita is your timeless guide to mastering your mind and crafting a life of profound purpose, boundless meaning, and unending satisfaction. It's a journey of self-discovery that anyone can embark upon, regardless of age or religious background. Welcome to my interpretation of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, thoughtfully crafted to make its profound teachings accessible and relevant for all. The simple present tense has been employed throughout the narration because the wisdom imparted in the scripture is timeless and applies to any day and age. This presentation aims to help you relate to the teachings more easily, ensuring that they are not perceived as a distant event that might not suit the present. I wish you a pleasant, enlightening, and fulfilling spiritual voyage through my rendering of my interpretation of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. The ever-relevant Gita, ancient wisdom for modern life. Preface. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, comprising chapters 25 to 42 of the 6th book within the Bhishma Parva of the Mahabharata, imparts valuable teachings that can be life-changing for anyone. Shri Krishna, Arjuna's mentor and charioteer in the Kurukshetra battle, imparts lessons on virtuous living. This includes performing duties with total dedication, social responsibility, and detachment from outcomes. Krishna elucidates life's facets, offering guidance for harmonizing spirituality and worldly pursuits in the imperfect and materialistic realm in which we live. Diverse perspectives. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita serves as a spiritual guide, a self-improvement manual, a source of verses for meditative practice, and a guide for managing the mind. Unlike prescriptive religious texts, it avoids imposing mandates or commandments. Bhagavan Krishna expounds on natural laws such as infinity, cyclical existence, temporal and spatial continuity, and above all, the law of karma, or the principle of cause and effect, under which all other natural laws fall. A seeker who reads it can achieve a clear understanding of the separation between the body, senses, mind, intellect, and the all-pervading Atman or Brahman, personified as Krishna. The culmination of wisdom. As his discourse nears its conclusion, Krishna urges Arjuna to reflect fully on the knowledge he has gained and to act according to his will. In Shloka 1863, Krishna says, "I have taught you the secret wisdom which is deeper than all that is confidential and profound. Reflect fully on what I have declared to you and do as you wish." This particular shloka strongly underlines that the Srimad Bhagavad Gita neither pushes nor endorses any form of dogma. A genuine follower of Sanatana Dharma who studies the Srimad Bhagavad Gita seeks self-improvement through knowledge and guidance from scriptures, teachers, and life's experiences. The path involves revering knowledgeable teachers and engaging in relentless inquiry. Yoga, equanimity, and mind mastery. A person with a balanced mind earns the title Sthita Prajna, treating pleasure and pain, gain and loss, and victory and defeat alike. Unchecked emotions mislead even the wise, but knowledge of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita empowers control, facilitating progress in one's karmic evolution. This knowledge promotes equality before natural laws, eradicating self-pity and mental weaknesses. The principle of cause and effect. Understanding the principle of cause and effect and one's gunas helps in removing troubles and promoting good health, happiness, and energy. The narrator's spiritually enriched life highlights gratitude and mindfulness. Near-fatal accidents instilled preparedness, eliminating anxiety. Gratefulness, shared learning, and cherishing nature characterize the narrator's approach. Mastering the mind. The mind is pivotal given its role in perception and experience. The main step to achieve self-realization, which is the highest goal in the path of Vedanta, is achieving complete mastery over one's own mind. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which the narrator calls the greatest mind management manual, unveils personal divinity and potential. Embracing this knowledge fosters courage, efficiency, and social responsibility, enabling a journey rich with knowledge, experience, and fulfillment towards a life of greatness. Introduction. The human mind stands as the most powerful natural instrument bestowed upon individuals. To illustrate this, envision a hypothetical clash between a physically robust person with a feeble mind and a physically frail individual with a strong mind. In this duel of contrasts, the mentally strong yet physically weak contender holds a considerable advantage over the physically robust yet mentally weak opponent. This is because comprehending and utilizing physical strength requires a sturdy mind. A mighty weightlifter's strength is of no use if he does not realize that he possesses it. Embracing the study of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita unveils the profound principles of a seeker's latent potential and divinity. Krishna's teachings empower you to govern your mind, maintaining its tranquility and command. By adhering to his guidance, you resist the mental enslavement that dogmas impose, safeguarding your capacity for independent thought and questioning. Such high knowledge protects you from mental subjugation by those with vested interests and helps you assert control over what is rightfully yours, your mind and self, which are inviolable. Through this mastery, your mind becomes a potent tool for an enriched existence, bolstering your journey of karmic evolution. Reflect on this. Your ancestors, countless in number, collectively shaped your present identity. Similarly, your descendants will emerge from your thoughts, words, and actions. Each fleeting thought and deed crafts karma, a continuous process. Favorable karma is preferable, warranting a conscious effort to tread the righteous path, ensuring a fulfilling existence and advancing personal karmic evolution. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, a brief overview. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, a timeless treasure of wisdom, is a profound dialectical discourse of Sri Bhagavan Krishna. It is a dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, as narrated to King Dhritarashtra by his charioteer Sanjaya. Amidst the ancient battle of Mahabharata, pitting the Pandavas against the Kauravas, we witness Duryodhana's insatiable hunger for power and control over the Pandavas' rightful share of the kingdom. On the 10th day after the start of the battle, the blind King Dhritarashtra, the father of the Kaurava brothers, eager for insight, summons his charioteer Sanjaya. Sanjaya possesses the gift of remote viewing that includes viewing events from the past. Through Sanjaya's narration, Dhritarashtra gains insight into the events on the battlefield, including the pivotal conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. In the middle of resounding war cries, Bhagavan Krishna and Arjuna appear on a majestic chariot drawn by white horses. Krishna assumes the role of Arjuna's charioteer and advisor throughout the war. Surrounded by armies and clamor, Arjuna's heart sinks as he recognizes his kinsmen, mentors, and comrades in both factions. Overwhelmed, his strong resolve wavers and he contemplates the purpose of the battle. Amidst this sorrow, Arjuna turns to the Supreme Bhagavan Krishna, his charioteer and counsel. Through Krishna's ensuing discourse, Arjuna, embracing his role as a devoted student, attains profound knowledge or Atma Jnana, the knowledge of the self. Think about it. At the heart of all mental turmoil lies the challenge of learning to come to terms with various situations, and this is highlighted in the first chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Conflict management is central to alleviating sorrow and suffering. Set against the backdrop of a war, the discourse of Jagadguru Shri Krishna is perfectly suited, as conflict is an ever-present element in our lives. Understanding the principle of cause and effect, mastering the mind to face and manage any conflict, and embracing a balanced, peaceful, prosperous, and fulfilling life are key takeaways. Arjuna's dilemma encapsulates the struggle of fulfilling his duty as a warrior while facing his own family, friends, and teachers on the opposing side. Such inner conflict often leads people to consider quitting and also rationalizing their idea to quit. Arjuna too articulates various reasons for his willingness to stand unarmed before his opponents and even letting himself be killed by them. To assist Arjuna, who represents us in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Krishna initiates a well-structured discourse, guiding him through an intellectual journey to reach the highest understanding of the self. Most of us have either succumbed or neared the brink of giving up in the face of such dilemmas, leading to self-pity, depression, self-loathing, and ill health. However, as sorrow engulfs Arjuna, he seeks refuge in the Supreme Bhagavan Krishna, his charioteer and guide. Through the dialectic discourse by Krishna that follows, Arjuna, fully embracing his role as a devoted student, achieves profound divine knowledge, or Atma-Jnana, or the knowledge of the self. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita commences with Dhritarashtra's inquiry to Sanjaya. Remarkably, the opening verse of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita starts with the term Dharma, while the closing verse concludes with Mama, forming the phrase Dharma Mama, or Mama Dharma, meaning my duty. This reinforces the idea that leading a righteous life is a universal responsibility, and following Bhagavan Krishna's divine teachings is the sure path to fulfilling this noble duty. Before we proceed, it's essential to bear in mind that the entire narrative is 100% allegorical. 1. The Kauravas and the Pandavas represent opposing forces within an individual's mind. 2. The family members, friends, teachers, and other close people whom Arjuna is about to fight represent the emotional attachments to people, objects, and ideas that one has. 3. The Battle of Kurukshetra symbolizes the eternal clash of ideas occurring within one's consciousness. 4. The near and dear ones in the story symbolize all the attachments that can weaken a person's mental strength to the extent that some individuals abandon their pursuits. 5. Arjuna embodies the common person who, despite education, knowledge, experience, and wisdom, succumbs to emotions and easily becomes a quitter. 6. Krishna represents your intellect and embodies the potential of perfection that any seeker can attain, provided they gain complete control over their mind, be responsible at all times, and pursue the path of righteousness. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 1, Arjuna Vishada Yoga, the despondency of Arjuna. The first chapter begins with Dhritarashtra asking Sanjaya to narrate to him the events on the sacred battlefield of Kurukshetra, where his sons and the Pandavas have assembled for battle. Sanjaya, the charioteer, recounts the developments, beginning with King Duryodhana witnessing the formidable army of the Pandavas and approaching his teacher and commander-in-chief, Dronacharya. Duryodhana invites Dronacharya to view the vast army of the Pandavas, the sons of Pandu, arranged by his gifted disciple Drishtadyumna, the son of Drupada. Duryodhana then names the mighty warriors within the Pandava ranks, including those equal to Bhima and Arjuna, such as Yuyudhana, Virata, and Drupada. He also names heroes like Drishtaketu, Chekitana, Kashiraja, Purujit, Kuntibhoja, Shaibhya, Yudhamanyu, Uttamojas, as well as the sons of Subhadra and Draupadi, who stood among the Pandava forces. He further elaborates, introducing the distinguished leaders of his own army, which include the teacher Dronacharya himself, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashwatthama, Vikarna, and the son of Somadatta. Not only that, but he highlights their determination and expertise in warfare, emphasizing the vastness of their army protected by Bhishma. As tension mounts, the battlefield resounds with the clamor of conch shells, kettle drums, trumpets, drums and horns, creating a scenario that is fierce and loud. That is when Bhagavan Shri Krishna and the Pandava scion Arjuna, seated in a magnificent chariot drawn by white horses, arrive and blow their celestial conch shells. Hrishikesha, or Bhagavan Krishna, sounds his conch shell, the Panchajanya, Arjuna the Devadatta, and Bhima the pound drum, filling the air with their resonant calls to battle. Arjuna then requests Bhagavan Krishna to position the chariot between the two armies in order for him to be able to see all those lined up seeking battle. He says that he needs to know all of whom he will have to fight in this great endeavor of war. Arjuna then expresses that he sees all his kinsmen gathered there together and ready to fight, desirous of pleasing Duryodhana, the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. Sanjaya then narrates to Dhritarashtra that being thus spoken to by Gurakesha or Arjuna, Bhagavan Shri Krishna, also known as Hrishikesha, positions the fine chariot in between the two armies in front of Bhishma, Drona and all the kings. That is when Krishna utters his first words in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. He says to Arjuna, "Look, O Partha, look at the Kurus assembled here." The Kurus include both the dynasties of the Pandavas and of the Kauravas. Arjuna, overwhelmed by compassion for his own folks lined up in the battle, surveys their ranks and recognizes his kin, mentors and friends on both sides. Arjuna's limbs quiver, his mouth is parched, and his body trembles as he observes his loved ones standing as foes. He expresses his distress to Krishna, explaining how his bow Gandiva is slipping from his grip and his skin is burning. His emotions lead him to reconsider the battle's worthiness, even rejecting kingship, pleasure, and life itself. Arjuna sees adverse omens, and he voices his reluctance to engage in a battle that would result in the death of relatives and mentors. He expresses that victory, dominion, and pleasure would bring no joy when obtained through such means. He's worried about the loss of family traditions and the destruction of righteousness that would ensue. Arjuna comes up with various reasons to justify his intent to quit the war and allow himself to be defeated. He states that when unrighteousness becomes predominant, the women of the family will become defiled, and when the women are defiled, unwanted offspring are born. Such an unwanted population creates hell for everyone and destroys family traditions. Ancestors of people from such fallen families are deprived of offerings made to departed souls. He goes on to say that from the sins committed by destroyers of family values and traditions, family and community are destroyed. He says he has heard that people whose family traditions are destroyed are condemned to be in hell forever. Recognizing the perils of destroying family values, Arjuna contemplates the aftermath of such actions. Arjuna says that it would be better for him if the sons of Dhritarashtra killed him with weapons while he stood unarmed and did not resist. Arjuna concludes that the resulting suffering and sin will only outweigh any possible gain. The chapter ends with Sanjaya informing Dhritarashtra that Arjuna sets aside his bow and sits down in his chariot, totally despondent. Thus ends the first part of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the yoga of the despondency of Arjuna, the science of the eternal, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Sri Bhagavan Krishna and Arjuna. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga, the yoga of analysis. Amidst the sprawling battlefield, Arjuna, a valiant warrior and scion of the Pandava lineage, stands paralyzed by conflicting emotions. Overwhelmed by compassion, pity, and sorrow, his eyes fill up with tears. At this pivotal moment, Sri Krishna, also known as Madhusudana, offers his guidance and wisdom. Witnessing Arjuna's emotional turmoil, Sri Krishna addresses him with compassion. He then asks how Arjuna, a noble and valiant warrior, has fallen prey to qualities of frailty that are inconsistent with his honorable character. Krishna underscores that these weaknesses obstruct personal development and tarnish one's reputation. Sri Krishna urges Arjuna to transcend his uncertainties and apprehensions, reminding him that timidity is not befitting of a man and is unbecoming of a warrior of his stature. He addresses Arjuna, calling him a destroyer of foes, and encourages him to cast off his cowardice and to stand with firm resolution. Arjuna expresses his moral dilemma to Sri Krishna. He grapples with the ethical predicament of engaging in battle against revered figures such as Bhishma and Dronacharya, whom he holds in high esteem. Arjuna wonders how he can raise his bow against those he views as worthy of his reverence. Contemplating the consequences of his actions, Arjuna expresses his concerns. He questions the ethics of gaining victory through the deaths of his respected elders, stating that living a humble life sustained by their generosity might be more honorable. He struggles with the belief that the bloodshed of his mentors will taint the wealth and power he gains from victory. Arjuna's uncertainty deepens as he contemplates the outcomes of victory and defeat. He reveals his plight, torn between the desire to conquer his foes and the emotional turmoil caused by the prospect of their death. He questions which path is more righteous. Seeking guidance, Arjuna turns to Sri Krishna, acknowledging him as his mentor and guide. He implores Sri Krishna to provide clarity and direction on the right course of action, and surrenders himself as a sincere disciple of Krishna who seeks wisdom. This happens to be the turning point in which Arjuna admits his lack of clarity of mind and seeks spiritual guidance from Bhagavan Shri Krishna. It is also extremely important to note that Arjuna, in spite of his closeness with Krishna, does not request him for any special favors, but surrenders before him and asks him to be guided by him. With understanding and compassion, Jagadguru Bhagavan Shri Krishna responds to Arjuna's inner conflict. He addresses the misunderstanding underlying Arjuna's grief and explains that wise individuals do not mourn the living or the dead, as the Atman transcends both birth and death. Krishna goes on to state that there was never a time when he did not exist, nor did Arjuna, nor all those kings. He further asserts that they will also never cease to exist. Sri Krishna elucidates the eternal nature of the Atman, describing how it transitions from one body to another after death, much like the changing phases of life within a single incarnation. He highlights the cyclical nature of existence. Exploring the nature of pleasure and pain, Sri Krishna explains that they arise from the interactions between the senses and their objects. He advises Arjuna to endure these transitory experiences with equanimity as they come and go, just like the changing seasons. Sri Krishna emphasizes that true wisdom lies in remaining unperturbed by both joy and sorrow. He asserts that those who attain such equanimity are fit for the eternal journey. Drawing upon the wisdom of seers, Sri Krishna underlines the indestructible nature of the Atman. He explains that while the body is perishable, the Atman is imperishable and everlasting. He imparts the wisdom of recognizing the distinction between the temporary and the eternal. Sri Krishna dispels the notion that the Atman can cause death. He asserts that the Atman neither kills nor is killed. It is beyond birth and death. He explains that the destruction of the body does not affect the Atman's eternal essence. Using analogies, Sri Krishna illustrates the Atman's resilience. He compares the Atman's transition from one body to another to the act of discarding old clothes for new ones. Just as the person remains unaffected, so does the Atman through its journey. Krishna asserts that the Atman cannot be cut or harmed by weapons, fire, water, or wind. He explains that the self is eternal, unchanging, and beyond destruction. He explains the immutable and incomprehensible nature of the Atman. Furthermore, he guides Arjuna towards fulfilling his duty on the battlefield as a Kshatriya. Bhagavan stresses that Arjuna's duty to uphold righteousness is paramount and that engaging in battle is his noblest pursuit. Transitioning to teaching the path of selfless action, Sri Krishna states that Arjuna has to be established in yoga. He defines yoga as a kind of equanimity with which one does one's duty without any attachment to its success or to its failure. Sri Krishna advises Arjuna to rise above sensory temptations and material gains. He highlights that such pursuits lead to temporary pleasures and distract from the pursuit of true wisdom. He stresses the pursuit of wisdom, detachment, and self-realization, and performing one's duty without attachment to outcomes. Bhagavan Krishna emphasizes the importance of duty and righteousness, urging Arjuna to fight for justice and dharma. He explains that since the Atman is beyond birth and death, one should not mourn the inevitable cycle of life and death. He introduces the concepts of Sankhya Yoga, the path of knowledge, and Karma Yoga, the path of selfless action, guiding Arjuna towards a balanced and detached approach to life. Krishna discusses the three gunas, or qualities of nature, that influence human existence and behavior, and the importance of rising above them. He encourages Arjuna to focus on the self and practice meditation to attain wisdom and serenity. He then stresses the significance of controlling the senses, maintaining composure, and cultivating inner peace. Bhagavan states that Arjuna will either be killed in the battle and attain celestial abodes, or win the battle and enjoy the kingdom on earth. Thus, he urges Arjuna to fight with resolution, treating alike pleasure and pain, gain and loss, and victory and defeat, thereby avoiding karma. Krishna warns against being swayed by desires and the allure of Vedic rituals that promise material gains and pleasures. He advises Arjuna to rise above the three gunas, remain in goodness or sattva, and establish himself in the self. Bhagavan then describes Karma Yoga as performing one's duty without attachment to the results, maintaining equanimity, and always having a balanced mind. He contrasts desire-driven actions with those guided by wisdom and selflessness, explaining that practicing Karma Yoga leads to freedom from sorrow and disappointment. He further explains that Vedic literature encompasses subjects influenced by the three gunas. Therefore, he advises Arjuna to transcend these gunas, to liberate himself from the conflicts of dualities, and to consistently abide in the state of sattva or goodness. Krishna describes a person of steady consciousness or sthita prajna as one who is content within, unaffected by miseries, comforts, attachments, fear, or anger. He warns that attachment to sense objects give rise to desires, which lead to anger, delusion, confusion of memory, and the destruction of intelligence, ultimately resulting in a person's perishment. One who is not agitated or disturbed, despite the threefold miseries, is also not euphoric when he has comforts, and is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is a sthita prajna, or a sage with a steady mind. The threefold miseries encompass those originating from the mind and body, those inflicted by other beings, and those brought about by natural calamities and uncontrollable catastrophes. Krishna illustrates with an analogy that when one withdraws completely from sense objects, akin to how a tortoise retreats into its shell, their mind and wisdom remain steady. He points out that the senses, being formidable, can potentially lead even the wisest person astray against their will. The mind can be led astray by any of the senses it focuses on, much like a strong wind moving a ship away from its intended course on water. Krishna further explains that once a person attains mental serenity through divine consciousness, it results in the eradication of all mental sufferings and the establishment of unwavering intelligence. He asserts that a person devoid of meditation cannot possess spiritual knowledge and intelligence. Such an individual lacking a steadfast mind will not experience inner peace. Therefore, one without inner peace will struggle to find happiness. The time when all living beings experience night is when a person of self-control is alert, and the period when other creatures are wide awake is night for the wise seer. The one who remains steady even as a barrage of desires flowing, just like the unchanging ocean into which numerous rivers flow, can find inner peace, while those who crave pleasures may struggle to attain it. In essence, Chapter 2 of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita teaches Arjuna and all seekers the importance of unwavering determination, equanimity, self-control, wisdom, and self-realization as the path to liberation and inner peace. Krishna explains that for an individual who has achieved self-realization, the Vedas serve a purpose comparable to that of a small well when it is flooded everywhere. He gives Arjuna the most important principle in Karma Yoga, which is that he only has the right to work, but never to claim its results. The results of Arjuna's actions should never be his motive, but at the same time, he should not resort to inaction. Bhagavan assures Arjuna that even a small step towards righteousness yields great rewards. He emphasizes that progress in yoga leads to liberation from the cycle of birth and death. The conclusion of Chapter 2 features Krishna's explanation that the Brahmi state, a spiritual condition, dispels mental confusion. It is not a commodity that can be acquired from an external source. Rather, it is a state of mind that can be attained by an individual through knowledge, discipline, and maintaining mental equanimity. Bhagavan Krishna declares that when this state of mind is present at the time of one's death, it enables the individual's attainment of nirvana in the Supreme Brahman. Thus ends the second part of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Sankhya Yoga, the science of the eternal, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 3, the Yoga of Action, Karma Yoga. Arjuna asks why he is being urged to engage in such a dreadful action when Krishna acknowledges the superiority of knowledge over action. He expresses confusion due to what seems to be conflicting advice and requests Bhagavan Krishna for a clear explanation of the benefits. The Supreme Bhagavan responds by saying that in the world there are two paths which he has already declared. One is the path of knowledge of the contemplative Sankhyas, and the other the path of action of the yogis. Mere abstention from work does not align a person with the actionless state of Brahman, and perfection is not attained solely through renunciation. Furthermore, Krishna asserts that no one can remain inactive even for a single moment due to the qualities arising from Prakriti or nature. He states that one who controls the five sense organs but harbors a mind constantly preoccupied with sensory objects is considered foolish and termed a charlatan. In contrast, someone who remains unattached, regulates the mind, and engages in karma yoga with the five sense organs is deemed more special. Bhagavan advises performing prescribed duties as action is superior to inaction, emphasizing that even sustaining the body requires work. He asserts that work binds individuals to the material world and encourages Arjuna, addressing him as the son of Kunti, to execute his duties perfectly as a sacrifice unto the divine. This, Krishna suggests, will lead to liberation from all bondage and attachments. Krishna establishes the connection between actions or yajna and the sustenance of life. He underscores that work originates from the Vedas rooted in the Supreme Brahman. Therefore, he who does not adopt the cycle prescribed and established in the Vedas and indulges in gratification of the senses lives a useless life. People who engage in selfless work with total dedication and without attachment to results, known as yajna, find relief from karmic reactions. Conversely, those who selfishly pursue personal enjoyment and neglect to share with others cannot achieve freedom from karmic reactions, underlining the significance of performing actions with a selfless and dedicated mindset. However, Bhagavan says that the wise who remain content within and are unaffected by desires do not have any obligations, nor do they depend on others for validation. He advises Arjuna to perform his duties without attachment to results and explains that even great kings like Janaka attained perfection through selfless action. He emphasizes that actions should be carried out with responsibility, setting an example for others because people generally emulate and follow important people. Likewise, he then declares his own engagement in action, stating that the world would follow his example if he were to cease all actions. He explains that his actions maintain the world's balance and prevent its destruction. As against those lacking knowledge who undertake actions with attachment to outcomes, the wise engage in work but without any attachment to the result. Their aspirations, if any, solely revolve around the well-being of the world. Since work binds people to the material world, Krishna asks Arjuna to do his work perfectly well as a sacrifice unto the divine, so that he can be free from all bondage and attachment or karma. The knowledgeable should refrain from disturbing the minds of the foolish who are attached to the outcomes of their actions. Instead, they should encourage them to be dedicated to all work while maintaining their own commitment to their tasks. Krishna continues by stating that all actions are driven by the three gunas or qualities of nature. However, those deluded by false ego and arrogance believe themselves to be the doers. The one with knowledge of the absolute truth avoids engaging in sensory gratification, understanding the distinction between working for results and working unattached but with devotion. Those ignorant people, fooled by identification with materials, are attached to the senses and their functions. People of higher knowledge should not agitate the foolish who have poor knowledge. Those who faithfully follow Krishna's teachings perform their work with faith and devotion and without jealousy. Such people are liberated from the bondage of actions. Krishna instructs Arjuna to completely renounce all works in him. He encourages Arjuna to fight with a mind filled with self-knowledge, without expectations, and free from arrogance and laziness. He then declares that even learned individuals act in accordance with their nature, emphasizing that all beings follow their own inherent nature. Furthermore, he discourages the suppression of these natural tendencies, highlighting the futility of attempting to gain something through such restraint. Krishna explains that both attachment and repulsion for sense objects reside in the senses, cautioning against letting them control one's path to self-realization. He then asserts that imperfect performance of one's prescribed duties is preferable to flawlessly executing tasks designated for others. Arjuna asks Bhagavan Krishna what prompts a man to perform wrongful deeds even without desiring to do them, as if he were being forced. To Arjuna's question, Krishna explains by attributing such actions to the influence of lust and anger arising from the insatiable nature of Rajoguna. He compares lust to an insatiable fire that shrouds man's wisdom, concealing it just as smoke veils a fire, dust clouds a mirror, and the womb envelops a fetus. He identifies these as formidable adversaries in one's spiritual journey. Bhagavan says that the senses, mind, and intelligence that are regarded as the seats of lust obscure the power of discrimination and knowledge, creating a delusion around the embodied self. He therefore advises Arjuna to control the senses right in the beginning and kill the thing that destroys knowledge and the realization of the self. Towards the end of chapter 3, Krishna expounds on the hierarchy of the senses, mind, intellect, and Atman. He explains that the senses hold superiority over sense objects. The mind surpasses the senses, while the intellect is superior to the Atman, and the self, or the master of the body, supersedes the intellect. Bhagavan subsequently stresses the imperative of conquering lust and destroying the invincible enemy in the form of desire, which impedes the realization of the self. In summary, Chapter 3 of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, titled The Yoga of Action, elaborates Karma Yoga, emphasizing the significance of performing selfless action as an offering to the divine and the necessity of conquering desires to evolve towards self-realization. Thus ends the third part of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Yoga of Action, the science of the eternal, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Sri Bhagavan Krishna and Arjuna. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 4, the Yoga of Knowledge and Action, Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. In this chapter, Sri Bhagavan Krishna imparts the imperishable wisdom of yoga, or the union of one's relationship with the Supreme. Krishna reveals that he first taught Vivasvan, the sun god, who passed the knowledge on to Manu, the first human, and then to his son Ikshvaku. Over time, this sacred yoga was transmitted through generations of royal sages. However, this lineage was eventually disrupted and the yoga was lost. Krishna tells Arjuna that he has taught him the same ancient yoga now because Arjuna is his devotee and friend. He declares that this yoga is the ultimate secret. Arjuna questions how Krishna could have taught this yoga to Vivasvan when Krishna's birth comes after Vivasvan's. To this, Sri Bhagavan Krishna explains that many births of his and of Arjuna's have passed, but while Krishna is aware of them, Arjuna is not. Though Krishna is unborn, imperishable, and the Bhagavan of all beings, he manifests through his Maya or divine energy. Sri Bhagavan Krishna further explains that whenever righteousness declines and unrighteousness prevails, he manifests himself. His purpose is to protect the virtuous, vanquish the wicked, and re-establish righteousness, doing so across the ages. I would like to emphasize, as mentioned in the initial overview of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, that a genuine seeker must interpret everything in this supreme scripture as entirely allegorical. When Krishna states that he manifests himself during the decline of righteousness and the prevalence of unrighteousness, it does not imply a literal descent to earth in the form of various creatures such as a fish, tortoise, horse, or any other entity. Instead, this manifestation is intended to occur within a person's mind through the higher intellect. This revelation could be triggered by encountering a wisdom-filled book like the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, interacting with a wise individual, undergoing a life-altering experience, or simply through a moment of inspiration. Perhaps you have encountered instances in your own life when you struggled with a challenge for an extended period, but one day, seemingly out of nowhere, you thought creatively and gained a completely new perspective, swiftly resolving your predicament. This realization highlights that all along your clarity of thought might have been obstructed by some form of emotion or another. Highlighting the significance of knowing his divine birth and actions, Krishna explains that those who depart their bodies with this awareness attain him, avoiding further birth. He underlines the importance of detachment, fearlessness, and freedom from anger, leading to an absorption in him, which culminates in transcendental love. Krishna assures that whichever way people surrender unto him, he will reward them, and he emphasizes that all paths lead to him, asserting his universal presence. Bhagavan differentiates between material success and spiritual success, suggesting that worldly achievements come through performing sacrifices for the deities. This indicates that whenever a person mentally focuses on achieving a certain material benefit, they can certainly achieve it. However, such gains are not permanent. He introduces the concept of the 4 divisions of human society created by him, based on the qualities or Gunas of individuals for the orderly development of the Supreme Consciousness. Bhagavan created social divisions based on the Gunas, Sattvika, Rajasika, and Tamasika. These divisions indicate levels of development of one's supreme consciousness influenced by their inherited or self-developed gunas. People work in alignment with their gunas, but cultivating supreme consciousness can change one's gunas. Elevated consciousness transcends societal divisions, surpassing even brahmanas by birth. Becoming a brahmana through the sattva guna leads to realizing supreme consciousness and universal oneness. Understanding Bhagavan Krishna surpasses all divisions. Gunas determine social duties. Lacking courage means one can't be a kshatriya or soldier, and weakness in arithmetic prevents one from becoming a vaishya. Consuming meat and other product derived through cruelty to animals prevents attaining sattvika, making it impossible for one to be called a brahmana. Bhagavan Shri Krishna clarifies that actions don't affect him, and he doesn't seek the fruits of actions. Those who understand him are liberated from the cycle of karmic consequences. He then explains the nature of action and inaction, delving into the essence of Vedic teachings. Furthermore, he elaborates on the profound wisdom of recognizing inaction within action and vice versa, signifying true wisdom. To elucidate the metaphor within yajnas or sacred rituals, Krishna explains that the eternal truth, or Brahman, constitutes the offering itself. In this metaphor, Brahman symbolizes the clarified butter poured into the fire of Brahman. For the one who, through complete immersion in spiritual practices, attains supreme consciousness and perceives divinity permeating all aspects of existence, the attainment of the Supreme Being becomes readily achievable. While certain yogis and mystics engage in yajnas and offerings to deities, others who have comprehended the absolute truth undertake a different form of sacrifice. They dedicate the sacrifice of their Atman or self to the sacrificial fire of the Supreme Brahman. Bhagavan unveils different forms of sacrifice, each designed to lead to a higher state of consciousness. He underscores the significance of acquiring knowledge and offers guidance on how to cultivate it. He stresses the supremacy of knowledge and the role of enlightened teachers in this acquisition. Krishna asserts that knowledge brings liberation, crossing doubt and revealing the unity of all beings. He assures Arjuna that even the gravest of sinners can transcend suffering through the boat of transcendental knowledge. Sri Krishna likens knowledge to a fire that burns all actions and reactions or karma born from material pursuits. He accords the superlative degree to the purifying power of knowledge and its transformative impact on individuals who attain it. He encourages a life of faith and devotion governed by self-control and knowledge. Bhagavan warns that doubt leads to destruction, while faith in knowledge bestows everlasting peace. Krishna concludes by urging Arjuna to renounce attachment to the results of actions, destroy doubt, and rise through the practice of yoga. He asks Arjuna to employ the sword of knowledge to dispel ignorance and elevate himself. Thus ends the fourth part of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Yoga of Knowledge, an eternal dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna, revealing profound insights into the nature of action, wisdom, and self-realization. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 5, the Yoga of Renunciation of Action, Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Arjuna addresses Bhagavan Krishna and says to him that on the one hand, Krishna talks of yoga, and on the other, he praises renunciation of action. He asks Bhagavan to tell him for sure which would be better for him. Krishna responds explaining that both renunciation and the yoga of selfless action lead to liberation. He emphasizes that the yoga of selfless action surpasses the yoga of renunciation. Krishna describes that a person who neither desires nor despises the outcomes of their actions is considered a sannyasi who is free from dualities and material bondage. He states that knowledgeable individuals do not differentiate between knowledge and selfless action, as practicing even one correctly ensures the benefits of both. Krishna further explains that the status achieved by the Sankhyas or Jnanis can also be reached through the path of Karma Yoga. He clarifies that those who perceive knowledge and selfless action as one can quickly attain supreme consciousness. A person dedicated to the path of selfless action, possessing a pure mind or purified soul, exercising control over their body and senses, displaying compassion towards all living beings, and recognizing their self in them, remains unbound despite being engaged in work. He points out that leading a life of renunciation without devotional service to the Supreme Bhagavan results in distress. However, a sage dedicated to selfless action attains the Supreme Bhagavan without delay. Krishna continues to elaborate on the qualities of a person devoted to selfless action. Such an individual possesses a pure mind, control over their body and senses, and compassion for all living beings. They view their own self within others and remain free from bondage. They maintain the perspective that they are not the doer even when engaged in various activities such as seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, going, dreaming, breathing, talking, giving up, accepting, while opening and closing the eyelids, knowing that they are the senses that are interacting with sense objects. Bhagavan gives the allegory of a lotus leaf and says that the one who dedicates all his actions to the Supreme Brahman and gives up all attachment to his works is untouched by karma, just as a lotus leaf is unaffected by water. Krishna stresses the significance of mental purity and explains that yogis achieve it by renouncing all attachments while engaging in actions with their body, mind, intellect, or senses. He points out that by relinquishing attachment to the outcomes of actions, one attains the highest level of peace, while those driven by the desire for results remain unsteady and are not free. Krishna continues to elucidate that a person who mentally renounces all actions and exercises self-control resides contentedly within the city of 9 gates, symbolizing the human body with 9 orifices. They neither initiate actions nor compel the body and senses to act. The Atman, the master of the body, does not generate actions or their consequences. These are products of the 3 Gunas, or the 3 facets of nature. He further explains that the Supreme Being does not judge sins or virtues. Ignorance often shrouds the knowledge of the Divine Spirit. However, for those whose ignorance is dispelled by self-knowledge, their understanding shines like the sun, revealing the highest being. Krishna says that when a person's intelligence, mind, and faith take refuge in the Supreme Being, they are purified of sins and set upon the path to liberation. He explains that wise people treat equally a learned and humble brahmana, a cow, an elephant, and even a person who cooks and eats dog meat, thus transcending social distinctions and hierarchies. It should be emphasized that any form of discrimination against people goes entirely against the teachings of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Krishna further explains that those who maintain equanimity and equality within their minds conquer dualities and reside in the ultimate truth. He emphasizes that a person who is wise does not rejoice in the enjoyments brought by the contact of sense objects. Such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and they are sources of distress and misery. Bhagavan Krishna continues to explain that a liberated individual unattached to external sense objects finds bliss within the self. By meditating on the Supreme Bhagavan, they experience boundless happiness. Such individuals do not derive pleasure from fleeting enjoyments derived from the contact with sense objects. He says that a person who, before giving up his body, can tolerate the urges of desire and anger that arise in him, is a self-controlled, ever-happy, self-rejoicing, and internally illuminated yogi. Such an individual attains absolute freedom, complete self-realization, and union with the Supreme Bhagavan or Brahman. Krishna stresses that those whose sins have been erased, who have clear minds devoid of doubts, and who work tirelessly for the welfare of all living beings, achieve liberation and absorption in the Supreme Bhagavan or Brahman. He explains that sages who have transcended passion and anger, maintaining control over their minds and constantly striving for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme both in this life and the hereafter. Krishna concludes by explaining that the wise who recognize him, the Supreme Bhagavan, as the purpose of their sacrifices and austerities ultimately attain him. Before I conclude rendering this chapter, let us recall that in chapter 2, Krishna says that for an individual who has achieved self-realization, the Vedas serve a purpose comparable to that of a small well when it is flooded everywhere. Attaining Krishna is synonymous with realizing the all-pervading self present in all beings and everywhere, with Bhagavan Krishna personifying this essence. Conceiving Krishna as a personal God residing in another realm risks undermining the Srimad Bhagavad Gita's purpose and can misguide a seeker into the abyss of dualistic delusion. Thus ends the fifth part of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the yoga of renunciation of action, the science of the eternal, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Sri Bhagavan Krishna and Arjuna. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 6, the Yoga of Meditation and Self-Realization, Atma Samyama Yoga. This chapter begins with Bhagavan Shri Krishna explaining that one who performs their obligatory duty without attachment to the outcome is a true sannyasi and yogi, and not just someone who has renounced action. Renunciation and yoga are interconnected, and to be a yogi, one must relinquish the desire for the fruits of action. For beginners in the eightfold system of yoga, action is the means, but for those who have attained yoga, their state of tranquility becomes the path. When a man is attached neither to the sense objects nor to actions and has renounced all outward urges, he is said to have attained to yoga. Krishna emphasizes the importance of self-elevation and discourages self-degradation. The mind, Krishna says, serves as both a friend and an enemy to the self. The conquered mind becomes the greatest friend, while the unconquered mind turns out to be one's greatest adversary. Conquering the mind, he clarifies, leads to the attainment of superconsciousness. Such a person transcends dualities like heat and cold, pleasure and pain, honor and dishonor, remaining in a constant state of balance, peace, and steadfast devotion. The yogi, whose self is content through knowledge and realization, maintains unwavering steadiness and control over the senses. To this yogi, material possessions like earth, stones, and gold hold equal value. He highlights that the true distinction among humans comes when one treats all beings impartially, including well-wishers, friends, enemies, the indifferent, those who are neutral and hateful individuals, as well as both righteous and unrighteous people. The yogi, according to Krishna, should possess a steady mind and avoid desires, while embracing solitude and remaining free from lust, greed, and possessiveness. Such a person, while treating all beings equally, practices moderation in all aspects of life, including eating and recreation. To begin yoga, one should first find a clean, suitable spot and sit with a controlled mind focused on the self. Yoga involves lifting oneself with the mind, purifying the heart, and achieving stillness. The practitioner must control their senses and think of the Supreme with a balanced mind. Meditation is vital, and the mind should be kept steady. Yoga remains elusive for those who overindulge or abstain in eating and oversleep or sleep inadequately. One who maintains moderation in various aspects eradicates all misery through the practice of yoga. Yoga should be practiced with complete renunciation of desires and control of the senses. Gradually withdrawing the mind from distractions and focusing it on the self is crucial. A tranquil mind devoid of longing for material objects signifies success in yoga. Just as a lamp placed in a windless spot does not flicker, the yogi with his mind under control is steady in meditation. The state of samadhi, or profound trance, is attained through disciplined yoga practice. In this state, individual consciousness merges with the supreme consciousness. Here, the purified mind perceives the self and experiences the bliss of intellectual understanding. Those firmly established in this state remain unwavering in truth and undisturbed by adversity. Disconnected from pain, they practice yoga with determination and a resilient, uplifted mindset. Yoga has to be practiced after having completely renounced all desires born of fancy and by controlling the senses by the mind. One should withdraw little by little, establishing the mind in the self through the intellect regulated by concentration. Wherever and whenever the mind wanders restlessly because of its unsteady quality, it should be restrained and brought back under the control of the self. The yogi whose rajas or passion has been pacified has a tranquil mind, is sinless, and is identified with the Supreme Brahman. Such a person attains the highest level of happiness. A yogi whose self is united with divine consciousness sees the self abiding in all beings and all beings in the self. Such a person sees the same everywhere. He further explains that the one who is in union with him and worships him residing in all beings becomes a yogi residing in him regardless of the circumstances. Bhagavan declares that a perfect yogi is someone who perceives equality in all beings and reacts to their joys and sorrows as if they were his own. Arjuna expresses his doubt to Krishna, maintaining that he does not perceive the steady continuation of the yoga of equanimity due to the restlessness of the mind. He describes the mind as restless, turbulent, strong, and unyielding, likening the difficulty to control it to controlling the wind. In response, Bhagavan Krishna assures Arjuna that although the mind is challenging to control and inherently restless, it can be restrained through practice and dispassion. Arjuna then asks Krishna, expressing concern for one who, despite having faith, is unable to control himself and strays from yoga. Arjuna queries the fate of such an individual, wondering if they meet a dire end like a detached cloud without support, deluded on the path of ultimate truth. He implores Krishna to completely dispel his doubt, acknowledging that only Krishna has the ability to resolve it. Bhagavan Krishna assures Arjuna that there is no destruction for one who performs good deeds both in this world and the next. Such an individual, having attained the worlds of the righteous, may be reborn in a virtuous and prosperous family. Alternatively, they may be born into a family of wise yogis, a rare and challenging birth to attain. In this new life, the person's previous divine consciousness is reawakened and they reconnect with the knowledge acquired in their former body. Motivated, they strive even harder to achieve perfection. Note, it's essential to highlight that Krishna subtly introduces key insights into self-realization as early as chapter 2, stating that it is the highest attainment. Considering Arjuna's initial misconceptions, Krishna, acting as a patient teacher, gradually unveils profound truths layer by layer, leading him to the pinnacle of comprehension. A person who fully internalizes the essence of the all-pervading Brahman transcends notions of multiple births. Understanding that the Atman, Self, Brahman, or Krishna is all-pervading can prove challenging for minds conditioned across generations to believe in separate individual Atmans, each reborn in different forms. Recall Krishna's words in chapter 2, the Self cannot be cut, just like the impossibility of cutting the sky into pieces. The Atman, being all-pervading, precludes the existence of individual souls. Traveling alongside Arjuna becomes a journey of shedding layer after layer of ignorance that has long veiled one's consciousness and intellect. At the end of this chapter, Bhagavan Krishna affirms that an individual drawn by the divine consciousness from the previous birth naturally gravitates towards yogic principles. Even without actively pursuing them, such a person ardently pursues yoga and remains unwavering in yogic principles. Note: as we conclude Chapter 6, I would like to share my personal thoughts and invite you to ponder on three essential considerations. 1. What constitutes an individual's nature? Conventional wisdom suggests that genetic factors, family environment, upbringing, education, and life experiences collectively shape a person's disposition. 2. Observing the profound physical transformations from infancy to old age prompts reflection. Do we not undergo continual change, symbolizing a perpetual cycle of death and rebirth? 3. In addition to the reflections above, let's consider the analogy that each awakening in the morning mirrors a new birth. Every morning marks the inception of a fresh day, akin to the beginning of a new life. In this context, we carry the mental and emotional states from our metaphorical previous life or the preceding night into the unfolding day. This underscores the profound influence of our nightly thoughts on the subsequent day, highlighting the interconnectedness of our mental states across these daily cycles. Contemplating these notions aids in grasping the profound wisdom within Krishna's teachings, steering clear of fanciful ideas such as the portrayal of a soul migrating from one body to another as depicted in certain cinematic representations, particularly in India. The truth always remains singular and unchangeable, but it is through analogies and diverse styles of interpretation that we learn to grapple with it and internalize it. By embracing varied perspectives, we enhance our comprehension and learn to apply the truth more effectively in our lives and evolve intellectually. Thus ends the 6th part of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the yoga of meditation and self-realization, the science of the eternal, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Bhagavan Shri Krishna and Arjuna. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 7, the Yoga of Knowledge and Realization, Jnana Vijnana Yoga. This is an extremely crucial chapter in understanding divinity and the universal and all-pervading nature of Brahman or Krishna. Bhagavan Krishna explains that by focusing one's mind on him, seeking refuge in him, and practicing yoga, Arjuna can attain complete knowledge of him, free from doubt. Krishna promises to elucidate this extraordinary knowledge and its realization, leaving nothing more to be known in the world. He states that after innumerable births, the one who has perfected his or her wisdom, understanding fully his universal reality, surrenders to him, and such an individual is very rare. Bhagavan proceeds to describe two of his energies, the lower one that comprises earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego, and the superior Jiva Shakti, the principle of life that sustains all living beings in the material world. All living things manifest from these two energies, with Krishna as the source of their creation and dissolution. He declares his supremacy, stating that nothing exists beyond him and that everything is connected to him like pearls strung on a thread. Note: all names and forms exist in the all-pervading universe and are formed by the very principle of existence and non-existence of Krishna. Hence, if the universe were likened to a thread, all names and forms would represent transient manifestations on it. He identifies himself as the sweet flavor in water, the radiant light of the moon and sun, the primordial syllable Om in the Vedas, the subsonic element of the sound of ether, and the valor in humans. Likewise, he further reveals his presence as the fragrance of the earth, the heat of fire, the vitality of all living beings, and the tolerance in those who practice austerities. Not only that, but he is the origin of all living beings, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the splendor of the powerful. Krishna asserts that he is the strength of the strong who are uncorrupted by desire and attachment, and the strength of procreation in all living beings. He explains that all manifestations of sattva, rajas, and tamas originate from him, though he is not in them, but they exist within him. The entire universe is deluded by the three gunas of Prakriti, failing to recognize him as the immutable supreme situated above them. Describing his divine Maya, with the three gunas of Prakriti as challenging to overcome without acknowledging him as the immutable supreme, Krishna says that only those who take refuge in him can conquer this illusory energy. He highlights that the depraved, driven by desire and attachment, commit evil acts and have their minds controlled by Maya or illusion, resulting in degraded discrimination. Krishna identifies four kinds of pious devotees of his: the distressed, those seeking knowledge, people desiring material gain, and people of wisdom. Of those, Bhagavan says, the one of wisdom who is engaged in devotional service is the best. Bhagavan is dear to such a knower, and he or she in turn is dear to Bhagavan. Saying that while he considers every devotee to be virtuous, Bhagavan Krishna declares that he regards the self-realized devotee as his own self, because the devotee's mind is fully focused on attaining Krishna as his ultimate goal. Krishna explains that as a result, those who have perfected their wisdom and fully understand his universal reality surrender to him, and such individuals are exceedingly rare. People driven by their desires and guided by their unique nature often choose to surrender to various deities, aligning themselves with the corresponding rites and rituals. Krishna assures that he supports the faith in whatever celestial form one wishes to worship. Devotees who possess unwavering faith in the deity sanctioned by him receive all they desire from that deity. This implies that there is nothing other than the all-pervading reality, Brahman or Krishna. The consequences of limited understanding remain transitory. Devotees of a deity attain that particular deity, whereas his devotees attain Krishna himself. Some foolish people who lack knowledge of Krishna's formless, exalted, imperishable, and supreme nature mistakenly believe that he assumes a manifest human form. However, Krishna remains unmanifest to those veiled by his Yogamaya energy. The ignorant fail to grasp that Krishna is imperishable and birthless. Note: failure to grasp the universal and all-encompassing nature of Krishna may result in dualistic misconceptions wherein allegorical concepts are erroneously interpreted, paving the way for the emergence of sects and cults led by self-centered individuals posing as spiritual guides. Krishna continues by saying that due to the illusion of duality arising from desire and aversion, all life forms are trapped in delusion. Yet, those whose sins are eradicated by virtuous deeds engage in devoted service to Krishna, breaking free from the delusion of duality. Towards the end of chapter 7, Bhagavan states that those who understand him as Adhibhuta, Adhideva, and Adhiyajna, the ultimate principle of phenomenal existence, the underlying foundation of all deities, and the one who sustains the performance of all sacrifices respectively, and have their minds absorbed in him, can know him even at the moment of death. Thus ends the 7th part of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the yoga of wisdom and realization, the science of the eternal, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Bhagavan Shri Krishna and Arjuna. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 8, the Yoga of the Supreme Truth, Akshara Brahma Yoga. Arjuna asks Krishna for a number of definitions. He expresses his desire to know what Brahman, Adhyatma, and Karma are. He also asks what Adhibhuta is and who is declared to be the Adhideva. He then asks who Adhyagnya is, how he is established in the body, and how Krishna is to be known by a self-controlled person at the time of departure. Bhagavan Krishna responds, saying that Brahman is Akshara, the imperishable, supreme and ultimate truth. The ego, which is said to be the individual self or jiva, is Adhyatma, or he who dwells in the body. Action, which brings all life into existence and also sustains them, is called karma. He further adds that the constantly changing and perishable nature of the material aspect is Adhibhuta. The Purusha, or the cosmic self, which is the basis of all divine manifestations, is Adhideva. Bhagavan declares that he alone is the Adhyagna, the one object of all worship which people perform with their body and mind. He confirms that whosoever at the time of death leaves the body thinking of him alone attains his being, and that there is no doubt about this. Bhagavan therefore asks Arjuna to think of him at all times and to do his duty of fighting the battle. He says that with Arjuna having offered his mind and intellect to Bhagavan Krishna, he will certainly attain him. With the mind made steadfast by the method of habitual meditation, not moving towards any other thing and constantly meditating, one attains the highest Purusha. Krishna then explains the subtle truths about the macrocosm and the microcosm. He states that the Param Purush is the timeless and omniscient commander who is more minute than an atom, has an inconceivable divine form, and is beyond the brightness of the sun and the darkness of ignorance. The one who, at the time of death, meditates upon him with full devotion by the power of yoga and fixes his mind and his life breath between his eyebrows, definitely attains him. He then assures Arjuna that he will explain to him in brief about that which scholars of the Vedas call Akshara, the imperishable, which only those free of all worldly attachments can enter. Krishna continues saying that having closed all the gates of the senses, concentrating on the heart and drawing all vital energies to the head, one should meditate on him. Meditating with unwavering devotion, especially during the moment of death, can allow one to reach the stage of the Supreme Being. He encourages Arjuna to practice yoga using the sacred monosyllable Om to contemplate on him, thereby achieving the supreme goal. Bhagavan reassures Arjuna that he is easily attainable by that ever-steadfast yogi who thinks of him always with exclusive devotion. He then reveals that all worlds, including Brahma's realm, are subject to the cyclical pattern of existence. However, those who attain Krishna transcend this cycle and are not subject to further rebirth. He explains the vast cosmic timeline where one day of Brahma equals 1,000 cycles of 4 yugas. Brahma's night is of equal duration. Those who understand this cosmic rhythm comprehend the truth of day and night. He clarifies that when Brahma's day begins, all beings manifest from an unmanifest state, while during Brahma's night they dissolve back into it. This vast collectivity of beings is born again and again. In the night it is dissolved, and at dawn it comes into being again. This cyclical process repeats itself. Krishna affirms that beyond the unmanifest, there exists another eternal unmanifest that remains untouched even during the dissolution of all beings. He confirms that this unmanifest, known as the imperishable, represents the highest goal. Attaining it liberates one from the cycle of birth and death, leading to the ultimate abode of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Jagadguru Krishna stresses that devotion to the one in whom all beings reside and through whom creation is sustained leads to attaining the highest Purusha. The bright and dark paths, signifying knowledge and ignorance, representing cycles of existence, are eternal as per the Vedas. Yogis traversing the bright path do not return, while those on the dark path are destined to return. Krishna concludes by assuring that armed with this understanding, yogis remain unwavering in their practice. Such yogis surpass the rewards obtained through Vedic study, rituals, penances, and charitable acts, ultimately attaining the highest primordial state. Thus ends the 8th part of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Yoga of the Supreme Truth, the Science of the Eternal, the Scripture of Yoga, the dialogue between Bhagavan Shri Krishna and Arjuna. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 9, the Yoga of Royal Knowledge and Profound Secrets, Rajavidya Rajaguhya Yoga. Bhagavan Shri Krishna explains that since Arjuna is endowed with reverence, he will now impart the most confidential wisdom. This knowledge, when comprehended, serves to alleviate the tribulations of material existence. He characterizes this wisdom as the royal science, an exceedingly sacred and royal secret that is open to direct experience. Bhagavan declares that it is very easy to practice and remains everlasting. Addressing Arjuna as Parantapa, which means the destroyer of foes, Krishna points out that those who lack faith in this Dharma and perceive the body as the self fail to attain him. They remain entangled in the cycle of samsara, the repeating pattern of birth and death. He reveals that the entire universe is pervaded by him in his unmanifest form. While all beings exist within him, he is not based in them. Krishna calls Arjuna's attention to his mystical, divine, and inconceivable yoga. Although he is the source and support of all objects, he remains uninfluenced by them. Drawing the analogy of the mighty wind that moves everywhere and finds rest in the ether, Krishna asserts that all beings find their rest in him. He describes how all beings enter his nature at the culmination of a cosmic cycle or kalpa and are sent forth again at the dawn of the subsequent kalpa. Krishna elucidates that the entire cosmic system operates under his direction, and that all beings that are under the subjugation to the forces of nature are continually sent forth. He states that these actions do not bind him, as he remains neutral and unattached. Bhagavan Krishna then expounds on his role in controlling the manifestation of living and non-living forms through the direction and control of nature. Thus, the entire cosmic manifestation undergoes cycles of creation, preservation, and dissolution. Krishna discusses the distorted understanding of those who are attracted to non-divine and demoniacal ideas, causing their culture and knowledge to be destroyed. Conversely, Krishna emphasizes that great souls endowed with divine qualities find refuge in him. They recognize him as the unchanging source of everything and worship him with unwavering devotion. He explains that others who pursue knowledge also worship him as the all-encompassing Supreme Brahman in his universal form. Some perceive him as the universal oneness not distinct from themselves, while others venerate him in his myriad manifestations. Krishna says that he is Kratu, the ritual, Yajna, the sacrifice, the benefaction, the healing herb, the mantra, the clarified butter, the fire, and the offering. He declares himself as the father, the mother, the dispenser of the fruits of actions, and the grandsire. He reveals that he is the purifier, the sacred Om, and the Rig, Yajur, and Samavedas. He affirms that he is the supreme goal, the sustainer, the Bhagavan, the witness, the abode, the shelter, the friend, the origin, the dissolution, the foundation, the treasure house, and the imperishable seed. Not only that, but he states that he imparts heat, withholds and sends forth rain, and embodies immortality and death. He signifies both spirit and matter, as well as existence and non-existence. There are two main kinds of devotees: the Sakama devotees, who are desire-oriented, and the Nishkama devotees, who are not desire-oriented. Talking of the Sakama or desire-driven devotees, Bhagavan acknowledges that those who possess knowledge of the three Vedas and worship him through sacrifices pray for passage to the heavenly realm. They attain the holy world of Indra, the king of deities, and enjoy divine pleasures. He then goes on to say that after enjoying heavenly pleasures and exhausting their merits, these individuals reincarnate on the mortal plane. He explains that the Sakama devotees, or the materialistic, selfish and desire-driven devotees who engage in Vedic rituals with a desire for worldly pleasures, undergo cycles of birth and death, while the selfless, Nishkama devotees who worship Krishna exclusively are assured by him of welfare and sustenance. Note, the Nishkama devotees are the ones with knowledge of the all-pervading self. They seek higher knowledge and not materialistic benefits which are impermanent. Recall the turning point in chapter 2 when Arjuna surrenders before Krishna as his disciple and requests him to be imparted with knowledge. Bhagavan states that even those who worship other deities with faith are unknowingly worshipping him simply because he is all-pervading and the highest reality. He points out that these individuals lack true understanding. Sri Krishna declares that he, the self, is the enjoyer and the Bhagavan of all sacrifices. Those who are ignorant of him fall into the cycle of birth and death in the mortal world. Krishna describes different groups of worshippers and their destinations. Those who worship deities reach them, those who revere ancestors go to them, and those who venerate ghosts and spirits go to them. He assures that those who worship him exclusively will undoubtedly attain him. He expresses his acceptance of offering made with devotion and a pure heart, and says that he accepts the significance of even simple offerings like a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water. To impart one of the prime principles of Karma Yoga, Krishna asks Arjuna to always bear in mind that whatever action or work he does, it should be as a sacrifice and an offering to Krishna. He specifies that all his actions, whether it's what he eats, offers in sacrifice, or gives or practices as austerity, he should do it for Krishna and offer it to him. By doing so, Arjuna will break free from the chains of actions that lead to both good and bad outcomes. With a mind guided by the principle of renunciation, he will attain liberation. Krishna emphasizes that he is impartial to all living beings, yet those who worship him with love and devotion become united with him, and he resides within them. Even the most sinful person, if they worship Krishna with unwavering devotion, should be considered righteous, as they have chosen the right path. He explains that such individuals soon become righteous and attain eternal peace. He assures Arjuna that those devoted to him are never destroyed. Bhagavan declares that anyone, regardless of race, gender, or social status, can approach him. Even those shunned by society can attain the highest goal by seeking him, the supreme destination. He further reveals that righteous individuals, sages, devotees, and saintly kings, although temporarily existing in the transient world of miseries, attain him. They engage in unwavering devotion unto him and realize his all-pervading divine presence. Krishna concludes by instructing Arjuna to fix his mind on him, be devoted, offer his work to him, and unite his entire being with him. He assures that by doing so, Arjuna will certainly reach him, the supreme goal. Thus ends the 9th part of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the yoga of royal knowledge and profound secrets, the science of the eternal, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Bhagavan Shri Krishna and Arjuna. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 10, the Yoga of Divine Splendor, Vibhuti Yoga. Sri Bhagavan Krishna explains that he will now share his supreme words with Arjuna for his benefit. The deities and great sages cannot fully know his origin. He is the source from which they all come. Any mortal who comprehends him as the unborn without a beginning and as the supreme Bhagavan of the worlds will be liberated from all illusions and sins. Attributes and qualities such as intelligence, knowledge, clarity of mind, forgiveness, honesty, self-control, happiness, pain, birth, death, fear and fearlessness, along with non-violence, equanimity, contentment, austerity, fame, beneficence, and ill fame all arise from him. He is the creator of the 7 great sages, the 4 ancient saints, and the Manus from whom all humanity is born. Those who truly understand his glory and power attain unflinching yoga. Shri Krishna is the source of everything, and everything evolves from him. Wise individuals worship him with absolute devotion. The minds of his devotees are fully engaged in him, and they attain great transcendental bliss by sharing his teachings. To those who worship him with love and steadfastness, he imparts the yoga of discrimination, and he resides in their intellect to destroy the darkness born of ignorance with the bright lamp of knowledge. Arjuna acknowledges Krishna as the Supreme Brahman, the Supreme Abode, the Supreme Sustenance, the Eternal, the Purest, the Most Supreme Personality, the Original, the Transcendental, the Unborn, and the Greatest. All the sages, including Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyasa, have already proclaimed this, and now Sri Krishna himself conveys it to Arjuna. Arjuna says to Krishna that Krishna alone can tell him in detail about all his abundance and his divine glories through which all the worlds exist. Arjuna asks in which way he should think of Krishna, the Supreme Yogi, and in which form of Krishna he should meditate upon. Arjuna then requests Bhagavan Krishna to enlighten him of his divine glories and manifestations, saying that he is never content hearing Bhagavan's words, which are like nectar. Sri Krishna elaborates on a few of the principal ones of his limitless glories. He is the self situated within all living entities, the origin, middle, and the end of all beings. Among various manifestations, he is Vishnu among the Adityas, the radiant sun among the luminaries, Marichi among the Maruts, and the moon among heavenly bodies. He is the Samaveda among the Vedas, Vasava among the gods, and the mind among the senses, as well as intelligence among living beings. Among the Rudras, he is Shankara. Among the Yakshas and Rakshasas, he is Kubera. And among the Vasus, he is Pavaka, or fire. He is the Meru among the 7 mountains, and among the priests of kings, he is the chief Brahaspati. Skanda among army generals, and the ocean among water bodies. Bhagavan says that among the great sages he is Bhrigu, among words he is the monosyllable Om, among sacrifices he is the sacrifice of repetition of mantras, and among immovable things he is the Himalayas. Among the trees he is the Pipal or the Ficus religiosa, while he is Narada among divine sages. Among Gandharvas he is Chitratha, and Kapila among perfect souls. He is Ucheshravas among horses, Airavata among elephants, and the king among men. The thunderbolt is his manifestation among weapons, Surabhi among cows, and the god of love among progenitors, while he is Vasuki among serpents. He is Ananta among the Nagas, Varuna among water beings, and Aryaman among the departed ancestors. He is Yama among the governors of justice, and Prahlada among the demons. Among reckoners he is time, among beasts he is their king, the lion, and Garuda among birds. Krishna's manifestations continue as he is the wind among purifiers, Rama among warriors, the shark among fishes, and the Ganga among rivers. He encompasses the beginning, middle, and the end of all creation, and in debates he is the power of logical reasoning. He is the letter A among the letters of the alphabet, and the dual among grammatical compounds. He is the inexhaustible and everlasting time, and he is the creator Brahma with faces in all directions. Krishna says that he is all-devouring death and the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among virtues considered feminine, he is fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. Among the hymns, he is Brihat Saman in the Samaveda. He is Gayatri among the prosodic meters, Margasirsha among the months, and spring among seasons. Krishna says that he is the dicing of the fraudulent, the splendor of the splendid, the victory of the victorious, the determination of those who are determined, and the goodness of the good. Among the Vrishnis he is Vasudeva, and among the Pandavas he is Arjuna. Vyasa is him among sages, and Ushana among poets. Krishna is the scepter of rulers. He is the statesmanship among those who seek victory, silence among secrets, and wisdom of the wise. Furthermore, he is the seed of all beings, and there is no being, whether moving or non-moving, that can exist without him. His divine glories are limitless, and this has been a brief illustration of his divine manifestations. Everything glorious, prosperous, and powerful is a manifestation of a part of his splendor. He supports the entire universe with a mere fragment of himself, remaining forever unchanged and transcendent. Note, to comprehend the essence of the Sanskrit term vibhuti, it is necessary to first understand the Sanskrit term svarupa, which means the original form. Therefore, when Brahman or Krishna is the essence of all existing and non-existent things, anything that appears in existence can only be a splendorous manifestation of his original Supreme Self or Paramatma. What is unseen is his svarupa, and all that one perceives through the senses is his vibhuti. This perspective will be crucial for the upcoming chapter, the Vishvarupa Darshana Yoga. Thus ends the 10th part of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Yoga of Divine Splendor, the Science of the Eternal, the Scripture of Yoga, the dialogue between Bhagavan Shri Krishna and Arjuna. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 11, the Yoga of the Vision of the Cosmic Form, Vishvarupa Darshana Yoga. In the grand narrative of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 11 holds a place of paramount significance. It is in this pivotal moment that Arjuna, the valiant warrior, beseeches Bhagavan Krishna, the divine charioteer, to reveal his universal form. With deep humility and a yearning for deeper insight, Arjuna addresses Sri Bhagavan Krishna as follows. He begins by expressing his gratitude for the profound teachings he has received from Bhagavan Krishna, which have dispelled his confusion and delusion. He acknowledges that he has learned about the origin and dissolution of all beings, as well as the incomprehensible greatness of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. As Arjuna desires a divine revelation, he implores Bhagavan Krishna to reveal his cosmic form, the form that encompasses all of creation. Arjuna's earnestness shines through as he seeks to witness the imperishable and universal self of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. In response to Arjuna's prayer, Bhagavan Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality, directs Arjuna's gaze towards a mesmerizing spectacle. He invites Arjuna to behold the countless diverse divine forms that are an intrinsic part of his being. These forms represent the myriad aspects of his supreme nature. Krishna asks Arjuna to behold the 12 sons of Aditi, the 8 Vasus, the 11 forms of Rudra, the 2 Ashvins, the 49 Maruts, and numerous other celestial forms that are invisible until now. Informing Arjuna that he would behold the entire universe encompassing both animate and inanimate entities in his universal form, Krishna bestows upon him the ability to witness anything he desires, both present and future. The Supreme Bhagavan says to Arjuna that his divine form cannot be perceived with ordinary human eyes. To grant Arjuna the vision required, Sri Krishna endows Arjuna with divine sight, allowing him to witness the incomprehensible miracle of the divine. Note, the significance of the expression divine sight underscores that perceiving the omnipresent divinity requires not just a visual enhancement, but a suitable mental disposition and a profound sense of awe. It is this attitude that allows one to perceive nature as the ultimate marvel and recognize Krishna in every living being and in every facet of consciousness and existence. Sankhya, who is narrating this phenomenal event to King Dhritarashtra, explains how Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality, unveils his universal form in all its resplendent glory. Arjuna, now graced with divine sight, gazes upon a form that is beyond imagination. In the cosmic form of Bhagavan Krishna, Arjuna perceives a multitude of mouths and eyes, each one more wondrous than the last. He is captivated by the divine ornaments adorning Bhagavan and the celestial weapons he wields. Shri Krishna's form is clothed in divine garments and adorned with radiant garlands. His divine scent pervades the surroundings, and his entire being exudes an all-encompassing magnificent radiance. Arjuna's ecstasy knows no bounds as he witnesses the vastness of the Supreme Being. The brilliance of Sri Bhagavan Krishna's form rivals the radiance of countless suns in the sky, casting a dazzling light that envelops the entire universe. At that moment, Arjuna beholds the entire universe with its multifarious divisions, all to be united in the body of the Supreme Bhagavan Krishna. Overwhelmed with awe and ecstasy, Arjuna, his hair standing on end, reverently bows with folded hands before the Supreme Bhagavan Krishna and begins to speak. Arjuna's voice resonates with wonder as he describes the divine vision. He sees an assembly of deities and various living entities within Sri Krishna's body. Brahma seated on a lotus flower, Bhagavan Shiva, divine serpents, and numerous great sages, all are a part of his cosmic spectacle. In the universal form of Sri Krishna, Arjuna witnesses countless arms, multiple bellies, innumerable mouths and eyes. This infinite form transcends the boundaries of time, for it has no beginning, middle, or end. And awestruck Arjuna sees Bhagavan Krishna adorned with a crown and bearing divine weapons such as maces and discs. His radiant aura shines from all directions, making it a daunting task to perceive Bhagavan amidst the blazing, unending brilliance. Arjuna says to Krishna that the universe finds its dwelling within Bhagavan Krishna, who is inexhaustible and the supreme protector of the eternal Sanatana Dharma. The magnificence of its revelation solidifies Arjuna's unwavering belief in the divine nature of Bhagavan Krishna. With a form that has no beginning, middle, or end, Sri Krishna's countless arms and eyes reveal his infinite glory. His radiance includes the brilliance of the sun and the moon, and his sheer presence warms and illuminates the universe. The space between the earth and the heavens, as well as all the quarters, is entirely filled with Bhagavan Krishna. The cosmic vision leaves the three worlds trembling in reverence before the Supreme Being. Groups of deities, celestial beings, and great sages enter into Sri Krishna's divine form. Some, overwhelmed with awe, offer prayers with folded hands, while others extol him through Vedic hymns. Even the Rudras, Adityas, Vasus, Sadhyas, Vishvadevas, Ashwini Kumaras, Maruts, forefathers, Gandharvas, Yakshas, demons, and Siddhas are transfixed, gazing upon his astonishing spectacle. Bhagavan Krishna's cosmic form leaves all the planetary bodies in a state of upheaval. Arjuna too is filled with astonishment and trepidation as he beholds this all-encompassing manifestation. Arjuna perceives Bhagavan Krishna touching the heavens, radiating a multitude of colors and displaying numerous faces, eyes, arms, thighs, legs, and bellies. The sight is nothing short of a cosmic wonder, and Arjuna is overcome with a profound sense of awe and reverence. With the bright and immeasurable radiance of blazing fire surrounding him, Bhagavan Krishna appears as an unfathomable infinite entity. His effulgence is so intense that Arjuna is aghast and struggles to maintain his composure. Upon witnessing Bhagavan Shri Krishna's cosmic form, Arjuna trembles with fear, his heart devoid of peace and steadiness. He beholds Bhagavan Shri Krishna's mouth filled with fiery teeth, resembling the flames of annihilation and the fire of death, which leaves him bewildered. Turning to Bhagavan Shri Krishna, the refuge of the worlds, Arjuna implores for mercy. Amidst the dread-inspiring sight, Arjuna sees the sons of Dhritarashtra and allied kings, except for Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and other generals from their side, entering the formidable mouth of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Some are wedged between his teeth, others have their heads crushed, and some devoured whole, akin to rivers flowing into the ocean or moths darting into a blazing fire. Bhagavan Shri Krishna's fiery tongues lick up people and consume the worlds, enveloping the universe in a scorching blaze. Seeking an understanding of this formidable form, Arjuna offers his obeisance to Bhagavan Shri Krishna and implores for his grace, desiring to comprehend Bhagavan Shri Krishna's true nature and workings. In response, Bhagavan Shri Krishna declares that he is the formidable force of time, the annihilator of beings, and his role in the impending destruction of worlds. He assures Arjuna that even without his involvement, all opposing warriors are destined to perish. Addressing Arjuna as the ambidextrous one, Krishna asks Arjuna to therefore get up and attain glory, to conquer his enemies, and to enjoy a prosperous kingdom. He says that all these warriors have already been destroyed by Krishna, and that Arjuna is merely an instrument. Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, and other great warriors have already met their end at the hands of Bhagavan Shri Krishna, and Arjuna is reminded to fight without disturbance, emerging victorious against his foes. Having listened to the divine discourse of Shri Krishna, Arjuna, with trembling hands and folded palms, prostrates before him and speaks in a faltering, fearful voice. Arjuna acknowledges the delight that pervades all who glorify Bhagavan Shri Krishna, while even demons flee in fear of him. Arjuna questions, why would anyone not offer obeisance to the Supreme Being who surpasses even Brahma, the Creator, and serves as the eternal, imperishable, and all-pervading source of creation? Recognizing Bhagavan Shri Krishna as the primordial Supreme Being, the ancient personality, and the supreme resting place of the universe, Arjuna expresses his profound respect, offering obeisance from all directions. Saying that Krishna is air, fire, water, the moon, and Brahma, the divine controller and the grandsire, Arjuna offers his respect 1,000 times, again and again. He explains that Krishna is everything, with unlimited potency and unlimited force, being all-pervading in everything. Arjuna admits that he has addressed Krishna as "O Krishna, O Yadava, O friend," out of love, even without knowing Krishna's true greatness. He implores Bhagavan Shri Krishna to pardon him, likening the plea to the forgiveness given by a father to his son, a friend to his companion, or a lover to his beloved. Arjuna tells Krishna that he is the father of the entire universe, both of the moving and the non-moving. Arjuna acknowledges Krishna as the greatest spiritual master and decides that no one is equal to him, nor can anyone be greater than him. Arjuna describes Krishna as the immeasurable and unequaled power in the three worlds. Note, here I would like to point out that the three worlds, Patalaloka, Martyaloka, and the Devaloka, indicate the three facets of nature, namely the three Gunas, Tamas, Rajas, and Sattva, respectively. Arjuna then says to Krishna that he is delighted to see him in this universal form, but his mind is certainly filled with fear. He therefore addresses Bhagavan Krishna as the refuge of the universe and requests him to be graceful and reveal to him his previous form again. Sri Bhagavan Krishna states that his cosmic form has been revealed to Arjuna through his own infinite and glorious internal power. He tells Arjuna that no one else has ever witnessed this form. He reassures Arjuna, addressing him as the hero of the Kurus, not to fear this formidable form. Sri Bhagavan advises Arjuna to dispel his fear and maintain a calm mind, and that he will be able to perceive his previous form. Sanjaya reports to Dhritarashtra that after conversing with Arjuna, Bhagavan Krishna displays his own beautiful form once more, comforting the terrified Arjuna with kind words. Upon seeing Bhagavan Krishna in his usual human form, Arjuna affirms to Bhagavan Krishna that having seen him in his beautiful human form, he is now settled in his consciousness. Sri Bhagavan Krishna explains that the form Arjuna has witnessed is exceedingly rare to behold. Even the deities perpetually yearn to witness him in this form. This form, observed by Arjuna, cannot be perceived through the study of the Vedas, the practice of austerity, the offering of gifts, or the performance of sacrifices. However, by cultivating unwavering devotion and dedication, one can come to know him in this manner and even enter his mysteries. Bhagavan emphasizes that individuals who are engaged in his service, considering him as the ultimate goal, are free from contamination of their minds due to their previous actions and doubts, have no attachments, harbor no enmity towards any living being, and maintain friendly relations with all creatures, are those who undoubtedly attain Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Thus ends the 11th part of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the yoga of the vision of the cosmic form, the science of the eternal, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Bhagavan Shri Krishna and Arjuna. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 12, the Yoga of Devotion, Bhakti Yoga. In this crucial chapter regarding bhakti or devotion, Arjuna seeks to understand the essence of devotion and the various facets of its practice. He inquires about the difference between those who worship the formless, imperishable, and omnipresent Absolute, and those who worship the personal form of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Arjuna is eager to know which path of devotion is more favorable and beneficial. Bhagavan Shri Krishna explains that those who, fixing their minds on him, worship him and are ever steadfast and endowed with supreme faith, he regards them as the best of yogis. He then says that those who worship the imperishable, the indefinable, the unmanifest, the omnipresent, the unthinkable, the eternal, the formless, and the immovable, have their senses controlled, possess a balanced mind, and are engaged in the welfare of others, certainly attain him. However, those who focus on the formless and imperishable Absolute face challenges, as the human mind typically identifies with tangible forms. But those who worship him, renounce all actions in him, regard him as the supreme goal, and meditate on him with single-minded yoga, he certainly delivers them from the ocean of the mortal samsara, or that of birth and death. Bhagavan encourages Arjuna to center his mind and intellect on him. If that proves difficult, he advises constant practice to attain such focus. If that too is unattainable, Bhagavan suggests performing actions for his sake, promising that even this will lead to perfection. For those who find it hard to practice even this, taking refuge in the divine and renouncing the fruits of action is a path to spiritual progress. Bhagavan Krishna guides Arjuna that knowledge is superior to mere practice, meditation superior to knowledge, and the renunciation of the fruits of action is superior to meditation. This progression leads to inner peace. One who harbors no hatred towards any being, displays friendliness and compassion to all, and is devoid of attachment and ego, achieves a state of equilibrium amidst pleasure and pain. Such an individual, characterized by perpetual forgiveness, contentment, steadfast meditation, unwavering conviction, self-control, and unwavering dedication to Krishna, is dear to him. Furthermore, he who neither causes grief to others nor is agitated by the world, who treats equally pleasure and pain, and is free from envy, fear, and anxiety, is dear to Krishna. One who is devoid of desires, possesses purity, skill, dispassion, and tranquility, renounces selfishness in all endeavors, and maintains unwavering devotion to Krishna, is dear to him. He who transcends the realms of joy and hatred, neither mourns nor covets, rises beyond good and bad, and embraces unwavering devotion, is dear to Krishna. The one who views both foe and friend alike, who encounters honor and dishonor with equanimity, remains unaffected by cold, heat, pleasure, and pain, is free from attachment, treats admonishment and praise impartially, embraces silence, finds contentment in whatever unfolds, remains unattached to a specific place, and possesses a steadfast and devoted mind, is dear to Krishna. The chapter concludes with Bhagavan Shri Krishna declaring that those devotees who sincerely adhere to his timeless Dharma, enriched with unwavering faith regarding Krishna as their ultimate destination, are dear to Krishna. Thus ends the 12th part of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the yoga of devotion, the science of eternal, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Bhagavan Shri Krishna and Arjuna. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 13, the Yoga of Understanding the Distinction between Prakriti and Purusha, or Matter and Spirit. Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga. Arjuna expresses his desire to gain an understanding of the fundamental concepts of Prakriti or matter and Purusha or spirit, the Kshetra or field, and the Kshetrajna or the knower of the field, true knowledge, and the ultimate goal of this knowledge. Sri Bhagavan Krishna enlightens Arjuna by explaining that the body is referred to as a Kshetra or the field, and the knower who knows it is known as Kshetrajna or the knower of the field. The Kshetrajna present in all bodies is none other than Krishna himself, and this knowledge about the field and its knower is the essence of true wisdom. Bhagavan states that he will now explain to Arjuna in brief what the field is and of what nature it is. Arjuna may now hear from Krishna what its modifications are and what it was created from. He may also hear about the knower of the field and what his powers are. The absolute truth has been celebrated by great sages through diverse means. They have articulated this truth in Vedic hymns and have expounded upon it in the Brahma Sutras, employing reason and logic while presenting unambiguous evidence. The five great elements, egoism, intellect, the unmanifest primordial matter, the 10 senses, the mind, and the objects of the senses, as well as desires, hatred, happiness, pain, the body, the consciousness of living, conviction, and intelligence form the field or kshetra and all its modifications. He elaborates on the qualities that constitute knowledge, which are humility, being free from pretentiousness, non-violence, the virtue of forgiving, straightforwardness, service to the teacher, purity, steadfastness, self-control, dispassion towards objects of the senses, also the absence of egoism, perception of the evil and misery in birth, death, old age, sickness, and pain, remaining unattached, non-identification of the self with family members and their wealth, constant even-mindedness in favorable or in unfavorable situations, unswerving devotion unto Krishna, resorting to solitude, avoiding bad company, persistence in seeking knowledge of the self, and a clear comprehension of the aim of seeking spiritual enlightenment. Bhagavan says that whatever is opposed to all that is ignorance. Krishna proceeds, declaring his intent to unveil the knowledge that leads to immortality. He reveals the timeless and eternal Brahman, transcending the notions of existence and non-existence. This all-pervading reality possesses hands and feet everywhere, with eyes, heads, and mouths omnipresent, and ears extending throughout the universe. It perceives all sensory experiences while remaining detached, upholding and sustaining the entirety of creation. Simultaneously transcending the three Gunas and serving as their experiencer, it embodies the ultimate truth. Krishna explains that the Supreme Truth exists within and outside all living beings, including all those that move and do not move. This reality is simultaneously subtle and far-reaching, near to all, despite its apparent distance. While it remains undivided, it manifests as if divided within each being. It functions as the creator, sustainer, and destroyer, shining as the light surpassing all other lights, beyond darkness. It represents knowledge, the knowable, and the ultimate goal of knowledge residing within the hearts of all. In conclusion, Krishna clarifies the essence of the field, knowledge, and the object of knowledge. Devotees who comprehend this truth merge with Krishna's being. Krishna explains to Arjuna that Prakriti or nature and Purusha or spirit are both without a beginning. All transformations of the body and the gunas originate from Prakriti. Prakriti is considered the cause in the relationship between effect and cause, while Purusha is responsible for experiencing pleasure and pain. Seated within Prakriti, Purusha undergoes the effects of qualities originating from Prakriti. Attachment to these qualities becomes the catalyst for birth in both virtuous and non-virtuous wombs. Within the body resides Purusha, also known as the spectator, the one who permits, supports, and enjoys transcendently. He is the Paramatma, the Supreme Self. Understanding the truth about the Purusha or spirit, Prakriti or matter, and the interplay of the Gunas leads to liberation. Such a person, regardless of their current condition, will not undergo rebirth. Some individuals perceive the self within themselves through meditation, while others do so through the yoga of knowledge or the yoga of action. Those who lack spiritual knowledge but begin to worship after learning from others also transcend the cycle of birth and death. Krishna explains to Arjuna that whenever a being takes birth, whether it is moving or non-moving, it occurs due to the combination of the field and its knower. A perceptive individual, according to Krishna, is someone who discerns the presence of the Supreme Self, the Supreme Bhagavan, equally within all beings, the unperishing Supreme in the perishing. Such a discerning person perceives the same Supreme Self dwelling everywhere and refrains from compromising their own spiritual well-being by confusing the ego with the self, as the ignorant do. As a result, they achieve the highest goal. Krishna clarifies to Arjuna that an individual who possesses true insight perceives that all actions are carried out by Prakriti, the material nature which originates from the body and mind. This perceptive person understands that the true spiritual self remains inactive. When a person observes the entire diversity of beings as resting in the one and emanating from that singular source, they attain the realization of Brahman. Krishna further explains that the imperishable Supreme Self lacks a beginning and is free from material qualities. Even though it dwells in the body, it neither engages in actions nor is affected by them. Krishna conveys to Arjuna that the self, which is omnipresent within the body, remains untainted and unaffected, just like the all-pervading ether due to its subtlety. Additionally, Krishna explains that similar to the sun illuminating the entire world, the self or Atman, as the master of the body, sheds light on the entire field. He goes on to elaborate that those who perceive the differentiation between the field and its knower, as well as the liberation of beings from material nature or Prakriti through the lens of knowledge, achieve the supreme goal. Thus ends the 13th part of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the yoga of understanding the distinction between Prakriti and Purusha, or matter and spirit, the science of the eternal, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Bhagavan Shri Krishna and Arjuna. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 14, the Yoga of Understanding the Three Gunas, Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. Sri Bhagavan Krishna has been speaking about the three gunas right from chapter 2. He's about to elaborate the gunas in this chapter. He will again explain to Arjuna that supreme knowledge which is the most superior of all knowledge. With this knowledge, all the sages who have been liberated from this realm have achieved the highest accomplishment. Those who embrace knowledge attain unity with Krishna, unaffected by the cycles of creation and dissolution. He explains that nature, or Brahma, is like his womb, into which he places the impulse of creation, out of which everything comes into being. As the seed-giving father, he facilitates life's genesis in the vast expanse of nature. Krishna elucidates that the three gunas, or qualities, include sattva, representing goodness, rajas, symbolizing passion, and tamas, denoting ignorance. He tells Arjuna that these qualities originate from Prakriti, which is nature. Krishna adds that these qualities tightly bind the unchanging embodied being in the physical body. Krishna explains to Arjuna that sattva binds one to happiness, rajas to action, and tamas to idiocy, binding one to ignorance. Sattva predominates over rajas and tamas, while rajas becomes evident when it overpowers sattva and tamas. Similarly, tamas manifests itself when it subdues sattva and rajas. The interplay of these gunas determines one's predominant state. Bhagavan further states that when the light of wisdom radiates through every sense in the body, it indicates the predominance of sattva. On the other hand, when greed, the pursuit of material gains, restlessness, and longing arise, Rajas is dominant in one's nature. He declares that the presence of illusion, darkness, recklessness, and delusion in an individual signifies the predominance of tamas. Krishna goes on to say that if a person's life ends while sattva is predominant, they attain the pure realms of the learned. When a person faces death with rajas predominant, they are reborn among those deeply involved in actions with attachment to outcomes. However, if one's life ends with tamas prevailing, they are reborn in less evolved conditions. He then describes that the results of virtuous actions carried out in the state of sattva are pure. In contrast, actions performed under the influence of rajas lead to suffering, and those done with tamas result in darkness. Krishna adds that knowledge arises from sattva, while rajas gives rise to greed, and tamas leads to ignorance, carelessness, and delusion. Those predominantly influenced by sattva move towards higher states of being. The rajasic tend to remain in the middle, and those primarily influenced by tamas gravitate towards lower conditions. Note, the adage holds true. What isn't defined and measured can't be controlled. To gain mastery over the mind, a comprehensive study is essential. Each facet of the mind, including its diverse aspects, must not only be defined but also thoroughly comprehended. An integral part of this understanding lies in grasping the three facets of nature, sattva, rajas, and tamas. This knowledge is crucial for unraveling the complexities of one's mind, delving into its general attitude and thought patterns, and eventually mastering it. The blessed Bhagavan explains to Arjuna that a person who recognizes the Gunas as the driving force behind all actions and considers the self as transcending these qualities attains his divine nature. You heard it right, Krishna's divine nature. One who surpasses the three Gunas is liberated from birth, illness, death, old age, and suffering, achieving immortality. Arjuna inquires about the characteristics of a person who has transcended the Gunas, how they conduct themselves, and how they move beyond these qualities. In response, the blessed Bhagavan describes that such an individual does not despise the presence of knowledge stemming from sattva, the activity arising from rajas, or the delusion rooted in tamas. They also do not long for them when they are absent. Such individuals remain unattached and unaffected by sensory objects, knowing that the senses and the mind born of the Gunas are responsible for actions, while their true self remains unwavering. These individuals remain equanimous in pleasure and pain, established in the self, treating a lump of earth, a stone, and gold as equals. They show no discrimination between friend and foe, and accept praise and criticism with equanimity. Those who remain unshaken in honor and dishonor and renounce claims of being the doer are considered to have transcended the three Gunas. Chapter 14 ends with Bhagavan Krishna declaring that one who serves Krishna with unflinching devotion and transcends the Gunas is fit for attaining the state of Brahman. Krishna is the abode of the formless Brahman, the imperishable and the immutable, of eternal Dharma and of absolute bliss. Thus ends the 14th part of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the yoga of discrimination of the three Gunas, the science of the eternal, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Bhagavan Shri Krishna and Arjuna. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 15, the Yoga of the Supreme Spirit, Purushottama Yoga. In Chapter 15, Bhagavan Shri Krishna states that the banyan tree is said to be imperishable, with its roots above and branches below, and its leaves like the hymns of the Vedas. He says that the one who understands this tree is considered a knower of the Vedas. Covered with burgeoning shoots, representing sense objects and nourished by the Gunas, Bhagavan explains that the branches of the tree extend into the world of humans. Its secondary roots delve downwards, generating actions and ensnaring individuals in the web of karmic bondage. For an individual entangled in worldly affairs, the true nature of the tree remains elusive. Its origin and endpoint elude his perception. One should aspire for the supreme state beyond the cycle of samsara, or the circuit of attachments, birth and death, from which there is no return. This can be achieved by cutting down the deeply rooted tree with the potent axe of non-attachment and wholeheartedly surrendering to the Supreme Being from whom this eternal process originated. Those who transcend pride and illusion, triumph over the negativity of attachment, dwell ceaselessly in the self, have their desires fully detached, and liberate themselves from the dualities of pleasure and pain will undoubtedly attain the ultimate goal. Krishna further explains that neither the sun, the moon, nor fire illumine his supreme abode, and that the one who reaches the highest abode never returns to material life. Jivas, or souls within living beings, are eternal fragments of Krishna himself. These souls are bound by their gunas and attract the five senses and the mind towards them. Note: let's begin with a simple question. What is it that is all-pervading in the universe? Of course, it is space, known as Akasha, or the Mahakasha, meaning the great space in which all the galaxies, stars, heavenly bodies, including the Earth, exist. Now, imagine something in your mind. It could be anything. You will realize that whatever you imagined exists in the sky or space of your mind. The sky or space in your mind is called Chidakasha. The term stems from Chit, meaning consciousness or awareness, and Akasha, meaning the sky or space, and in this case, the sky of your consciousness. Finally, picture the space within a pot and the space outside it. The sky or space within a pot is called Ghatakasha. Ghata means a pot, and Ghatakasha simply means the sky or space in the pot. So we have Mahakasha, Chidakasha, and Ghatakasha. Is there any difference between the space within the pot and outside it? Certainly not. The space in the pot appears distinct from the rest of the space, the sky or Akasha, merely due to the existence of the pot's walls. Similarly, consider seawater collected in a pail. The seawater in the pail takes a temporary identity as a pail of water until it reunites with the sea. In Chapter 8, we delved into the macrocosm and the microcosm. Krishna enlightened Arjuna about Parampurush, Brahman, or the Supreme Self, the timeless, omniscient commander, more minute than an atom, possessing an inconceivable divine form and surpassing the brilliance of the sun and the darkness of ignorance. Hence, Brahman, Parampurush, Krishna, the all-pervading Atman, or the Self, resides in each cell and atom. As I elucidated in Chapter 10, the unseen is the Svarupa of Brahman or Krishna, while all that is perceived through the senses is his vibhuti or manifestation. To simplify non-duality, that which is all-pervading by definition is non-dual. Everything perceived in this non-dual existence constitutes the vibhuti or manifestation of the formless Brahman or Krishna. Remember that anything that can be seen, smelt, felt, or tasted should be made of atoms, and within every atom is the same non-dual space, Akasha, or existence. In Chapter 13, Krishna conveys that a perceptive individual is someone who recognizes the presence of the Supreme Self, the Supreme Bhagavan, equally within all beings, the unperishing Supreme in the perishing. Back to the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. In Shloka 15:8, Krishna says that when the Atman, or the inner self, assumes a body, it carries the mind and the five senses from the previous body, much like the wind that carries various odors with it. Note, I would like to offer a couple of observations on the two primary methods of rationalizing the statement concerning the transmigration of the Atman. Before I proceed to explain, let us recall the most essential fact of the all-pervadingness of Brahman, Krishna, or the Self. It is common sense that when something is all-pervading, it is all-pervading and therefore cannot move. Let us take the case of empty space, which is all-pervading. Can empty space move from one place to another? Even such a thought is a meaningless one, isn't it? To even initiate acquiring an understanding of Brahman or Krishna, the crucial first step would be to dispel the misconception that there is literally a separate entity called life residing in the body and departing from it when the body dies. Every living entity or non-living physical thing that exists in space, irrespective of its size, is a conglomeration of atoms, with each atom, in turn, containing space within it. Each living being is an independent organic system which functions until all its components are working normally. When any of the primary organs fail, the corresponding organic system can no longer function cohesively. The ongoing renewal of cells, crucial for growth, repair and maintenance of tissues and organs, halts, leading the system to cease thriving. This cessation is what we refer to as death. It marks the end of a body, but not of that which exists within every atom of the organic system, or, let's say, in every physical body of humans. Consider how we commonly refer to a person's physical being as their body, or the body of a dead person as their corpse. The concept that we are not our bodies fundamentally permeates even our commonly spoken languages. That being the case, what is the death that Krishna refers to in this chapter when he talks of the Atman assuming a new body? Let us recall his words in chapter 2. Krishna said that as a person casts away old clothes for new ones, the embodied self too casts old bodies away for new ones. While this might come across as inauspicious or unpleasant, the reality is that every moment of our lives has the potential to be our last. All it takes is an accident, a natural disaster, a terrorist attack, a heart attack, a stroke, a pulmonary embolism, an aortic aneurysm, or even choking to cause a quick death. The process of self-regeneration plays a crucial role in the continuation of life. Our bodies are composed of trillions of cells, each with a specific function. As cells age, get damaged, or die, new cells replace them through regeneration. This ongoing renewal of cells is vital for the growth, repair and maintenance of tissues and organs. This being the case, I would ask for the sake of argument, are we not dying and being born every moment? Another extremely important fact is about going to sleep. When we are asleep, we have no awareness of what is going on with us or around us. Anything could happen to anyone when they are asleep. So when we wake up in the morning after a whole night's sleep, can it not be likened to being born again? Now, imagine going to bed seething with rage against someone. How do you think you would feel in the morning? It's quite natural that the thoughts you carried into the night will continue into the new day, permeating the first day of the rest of your life. Conversely, if you retire with good and warm thoughts, you will rise the next day with your mind carrying the odors of those positive reflections from the previous night. Why does every newborn baby have their own traits and fundamental nature even before their family has taught them anything at all? How is it that certain children turn out to be child prodigies? Why are siblings who are born to the same parents and raised in the same conditions so different from each other? Taking the line, when the Atman or inner self assumes a new body, it carries the mind and the five senses from the previous body, much like the wind that carries various odors with it, literally, would imply that the soul from someone who died earlier has transmigrated into a new body. This idea suggests that the mind and senses of the deceased person enter the body of a child still in the fetal stage. While this notion may sound fascinating and captivating, it lacks logical coherence. In reality, when a child is conceived and its embryos diploid has formed, it receives a wealth of information about physical features, personality traits, life patterns, and talents from the family lines of both parents. Thus, we could say that the term previous body does not relate to the former host body of a so-called soul and its associated elements. Rather, it pertains to a person's ancestors who transmit their mind and five senses through the medium of genes. The varied amalgamation of inherited genetic information explains the distinctive differences observed even among siblings. So, how do we apply the essence of this particular shloka in our lives? The natural principle of cause and effect extends its influence not only over the physical world, but also over our thoughts. One thought sets the stage for another, creating a chain reaction. Thus, practicing responsibility consistently with an awareness that every thought, word and deed generates karma serves as a shield not just for the individual, but also influences the trajectory of future generations descending from them. Well, these are my thoughts which I share with you to prompt you to think and find your own answers and not be led into belief systems propagated by certain organizations or individuals. Back to the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Krishna explains how the self or the master of the body experiences the objects of the senses, utilizing the faculties of hearing, sight, touch, taste, smell, and the mind. Ignorant individuals entangled by the Gunas are unable to perceive that which stays, experiences, and departs, whereas those with the eye of knowledge can discern it. Yogis who aspire for self-realization perceive the divine self within themselves. However, individuals lacking self-control and those with impure minds may not perceive it, despite their efforts. Krishna declares to Arjuna that the brilliance of the sun, which serves as the source of illumination for the entire world, the radiance of the moon, and the brightness of fire, all these belong to him. He explains that pervading the earth, he supports all beings by his energy, and by becoming the moon, he nourishes all herbs with the essence of life. Krishna further explains that he is the fire of digestion, known as Vaishvanara, associated with the prana and apana, the incoming and outgoing breath. He resides within the bodies of all living beings, where he facilitates the digestion of the four types of food. He also clarifies that he is present within the hearts of all creatures, and it is from him that memory, knowledge, and the power of reasoning emanate. Furthermore, he emphasizes that he is the sole subject of knowledge expounded in the Vedas and the originator of Vedanta, possessing knowledge of the Vedas. Krishna enlightens Arjuna that there are two Purushas, Kshar representing the perishable and Akshar signifying the imperishable. In the material world, all beings are perishable, while the liberated ones, referred to as Kutastha, are imperishable. Moreover, distinct from these, there is the Supreme Purusha, the highest self, or the indestructible Brahman, who pervades the three worlds and sustains all living beings. Krishna asserts that he transcends the perishable world of matter and is even higher than the imperishable, leading to his recognition in the Vedas as the highest Purusha. It is understood by those who grasp the truth, remain undeluded, and perceive Krishna as the highest Purusha. They offer wholehearted worship to him. Krishna emphasizes that he has imparted this highly confidential knowledge to Arjuna, and acquiring this wisdom bestows intelligence and fulfills all his duties. Thus ends the 15th part of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Yoga of the Supreme Spirit, the Science of the Eternal, the Scripture of Yoga, the dialogue between Bhagavan Shri Krishna and Arjuna. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 16, the Yoga of the distinction between divine and demoniacal qualities, Deva Asura Sampat Vibhaga Yoga. In the 16th chapter of the Grand Discourse, Sri Bhagavan Krishna elaborates on the virtues and vices shaping human character. He begins with the divine qualities fearlessness, purity of mind, perseverance in the yoga of knowledge, charity, self-control, sacrifice, the study of scriptures, austerity, and straightforwardness. Continuing with divine attributes, he addresses non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, peacefulness, the absence of greed, compassion, the absence of covetousness, gentleness, modesty, and prudence. Bhagavan Krishna asserts these as saintly qualities inherent in one born with a divine disposition. Conversely, Bhagavan Krishna outlines the qualities of those with a demoniacal nature, including fraud, impudence, arrogance, rage, rudeness, and ignorance as qualities that lead to bondage. Sri Krishna, while emphasizing that divine qualities lead to liberation and demoniacal qualities lead to bondage, reassures Arjuna that he possesses divine qualities. Bhagavan divides humanity into two categories, those with divine qualities and those with demoniacal tendencies. He elucidates the nature of the latter by saying that people with demoniacal tendencies lack understanding of right and wrong, purity and truthfulness. They deny the existence of a moral foundation, divinity, and believe that lust is the cause of the universe. Being bound by hundreds of ropes of desire and driven by insatiable lust, greed, and anger, they strive to amass wealth using all possible unjust and unrighteous means with the main aim of satisfying their desires. In their delusion, they proclaim having achieved things and assert that they will attain more in the future. They believe they possess everything and will continue accumulating wealth. They see themselves as all-powerful, successful, and happy. The demoniacal, who are bound by countless desires, ensnared in a web of delusion, and consumed by lust and greed, descend into a wretched existence. Krishna explains that individuals with narcissistic, arrogant, and ostentatious traits, intoxicated by the pride of their worldly possessions, engage in hypocritical acts of sacrifice. These actions disregard scriptural principles. They are blinded by egotism, power, arrogance, greed, and anger. These demoniacal people hold hatred not only for others, but also for Krishna's divine presence within themselves. They are vile, reproachful, vicious, and cruel, making them the most wretched among humanity. They remain trapped in a cycle of life and death, reborn into demoniacal existences. These deluded individuals continue to take birth in demoniacal wombs, sinking deeper into increasingly obscure and malevolent conditions. The three gates to self-destruction, namely lust, anger, and greed, should therefore be given up. One who liberates himself or herself from these destructive gates leads a life that benefits their self, ultimately reaching the supreme goal. Conversely, those who disregard the teachings of the scriptures and act under the sway of desire fail to attain perfection, happiness, or the supreme goal. Thus, scriptures serve as an authoritative guide, imparting knowledge about right and wrong. Living and working by this wisdom is the path to righteous action in the world. Thus ends the 16th part of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the yoga of the distinction between divine and demoniacal qualities, the science of the eternal, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Bhagavan Shri Krishna and Arjuna. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 17, the yoga of the three divisions of faith, Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yoga. Arjuna asks Krishna about the condition of those who disregard the teachings of the scriptures but perform with devotion and faith, questioning whether it is sattva, rajas, or tamas. Sri Bhagavan Krishna replies to Arjuna, explaining the nature of faith and its impact. He categorizes faith into three types, sattvika, rajasika, and tamasika, each corresponding to an individual's inherent disposition. People naturally possess faith in alignment with their inherent tendencies. In other words, the faith of everyone is as per their nature. People are what the nature of their faith is. Note: it is essential to clearly define the term faith used in this chapter. The term is usually defined as complete trust or confidence in someone or something, or the strong belief in the doctrines of religion based on scriptural conviction rather than proof. The other term that needs better definition is devotion. This term carries various connotations, with many associating it with typical religious practices like religious prayer, worship, and observances. However, in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which is meant for all humanity and primarily aims to guide seekers in mastering their minds and initiating them towards true knowledge, there is no religious tone attached to it. Devotion in this context simply means love, loyalty, enthusiasm, and above all, commitment. Consider a devoted father, mother, son, daughter, husband, or wife. Do they engage in religious observances towards the person to whom they are devoted? Absolutely not. All these devoted individuals are committed to their respective roles as a father, mother, son, daughter, husband, or wife. A person committed to their work invariably excels in what they do. Let us get back to the term faith. To better understand the term in the context of this chapter, we will have to begin by considering the fact that the fundamental pure I-ness in you, without any attributes such as species, gender, name, or age, is in fact the Atman, Brahman, Paramatma, or Krishna. I mention species because even animals have that sense of I in them. We are talking about the pure I, or Aham, and I am, or Aham Asmi. This I is not the ego, which is the assumed I, but it is the pure self, which has no boundaries or limitations. You can easily learn to experience this state by standing absolutely still and blindfolded in a dark room and merely concentrating on your sense of I am. This pure I is your Swarupa, or your original being. However, what and who you think you are stems from your body, name, other attributes, and, above all, your general personality. The personality of a human being is essentially a collection of all these attributes and faiths, encompassing beliefs, likes and dislikes, culture, habits, and traditions known as samskaras or impressions. The origins of these impressions vary. A major percentage is genetically inherited, some are influenced by external factors, while others are acquired through experience and study. Hence, to comprehend this chapter better, let us say that faith here means your overall philosophy of life, which forms your general nature, character, attitude, and general comportment. Back to the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavan Shri Krishna explains in detail. Sattvic individuals offer devotion to celestial beings and divine entities, while Rajasic individuals tend to worship worldly entities such as yakshas and rakshasas. Tamasic individuals, deluded and influenced by ignorance, worship the deceased, ghosts, spirits, and elemental beings. Some individuals, driven by ego, passion, and attachment, engage in severe austerities not prescribed by the scriptures. Such senseless men torture not only the elements in their own bodies, but also Krishna residing within it. Krishna asks Arjuna to know them to be of demoniacal qualities. Even the food that people prefer is of three kinds, just as worship, austerity, and almsgiving are. Sattvic individuals prefer foods that promote vitality, purity, strength, and well-being. In contrast, Rajasic individuals lean towards bitter, sour, and spicy foods, which can lead to pain and disease. Tamasic individuals opt for stale, tasteless, and impure foods. The manner of sacrifice reflects one's faith. Sattvic sacrifices are selfless acts performed without the expectation of rewards. Rajasic sacrifices aim for personal gain and recognition, while tamasic sacrifices are devoid of faith, scriptural guidance, and offerings. Austerities of the body involve worshipping deities and spiritual guides and practicing honesty and chastity. Austerity of speech entails truthful and non-offensive communication, often accompanied by Vedic recitations. Mental austerity involves maintaining inner peace, self-control, and mental purity. Sattvic austerities are performed with unwavering faith and a selfless attitude. Rajasic austerities seek recognition and reputation and are temporary. Tamasic austerities result from misconceptions, self-harm, or harm to others. Charity, when given without expectation to deserving recipients and as a dutiful act, is sattvic. Rajasic charity is performed with expectations or as a return for favors. Tamasic charity is given at the wrong place, time, or with disdain. The sacred sound, Om Tat Sat, represents the threefold name of Brahman. It is the origin of priests, Vedas, and sacrifices. Therefore, rituals, charity, and austerities performed according to scriptural guidelines commence with the utterance of Om. Those seeking liberation perform acts without expectations, using Tat. Sat signifies actions that are auspicious or dedicated to the Supreme. Acts of sacrifice, austerity, and charity performed with unwavering faith and devotion are considered Sat. On the contrary, acts done without faith are called Asat. They hold no value, neither in this world nor in the afterlife. Thus ends the 17th part of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the yoga of the three kinds of faith, the science of the eternal, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Bhagavan Shri Krishna and Arjuna. The Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 18, the Yoga of Liberation through Renunciation, Moksha Sannyasa Yoga. Out of the 700 shlokas contained in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, 574 shlokas are spoken by Krishna, 84 by Arjuna, 41 by Sanjaya, and 1 by King Dhritarashtra. The second and the 18th chapters are considered to be the most important ones in the entire Srimad Bhagavad Gita. The second chapter, with 72 shlokas, gives a seeker a preview of all that is to follow. About the 18th chapter, with 78 shlokas, which is the longest one in the scripture, it can be said that it contains all of Bhagavan Krishna's teachings, but in a condensed form. In the final chapter of the grand discourse, Arjuna begins by expressing his desire to understand the truth about the renunciation of action and the renunciation of the desire for the fruits of actions. He seeks to comprehend the distinction between the two. He addresses Krishna as Keshisudana, meaning the slayer of the demon Keshi, who represents false pride and blind arrogance. Therefore, Krishna, the supreme intellect, won over Keshi, the personification of false pride and blind arrogance. In the beginning of the final chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains to Arjuna that the wise sages consider giving up desire-driven actions as sannyasa and relinquishing all the fruits of actions as dhyaga. Some sages declare that all actions should be given up, considering them to be filled with faults, while others state that acts of gift, sacrifice, and austerity should not be given up. Note, the term sannyasi is often misunderstood by many, and they usually associate this term with men who wear saffron or white-colored clothes, sport long beards, abandon their families, and set out in search of truth. This misunderstanding, in fact, discourages some young people from even reading this life-changing scripture. However, please recall that in the 5th chapter, Krishna clarified that a true sannyasi is one who neither hates nor desires the results of their actions, harbors no hatred, and has no expectations. In this chapter, Krishna reaffirms that a person who has renounced desire-driven actions is indeed a sannyasi. Back to the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Krishna clarifies that there are 3 kinds of dhyaga or relinquishment. Actions as sacrifice, charity, and austerity should not be given up. These acts purify the wise and must be performed without attachment or desire for rewards. Abandoning obligatory duties due to delusion is considered tamasic. Those who abandon duties out of fear or because they are painful do not gain the merit of renunciation due to their rajasic nature. Arjuna learns that actions done as a duty without attachment or desire for rewards are considered sattvic. The tyagi who renounces is characterized by sattva, intelligence, wisdom, and conviction, and is unattached to pleasant or unpleasant tasks. Such a person performs duties diligently. Krishna emphasizes that complete renunciation of actions is impossible for embodied beings because their nature compels them to act. True renunciation involves giving up attachment to the fruits of actions, and one who does so is known to be a tyagi. Krishna then elaborates that there are 5 factors in any action: the body, the ego, the mind, the senses, and the divine consciousness within. Actions performed with the body, speech, or mind, whether good or bad, are influenced by these 5 factors. One who perceives the self as the doer of actions has a clouded mind and lacks spiritual understanding. Krishna explains that 3 fundamental impulses drive action: Jnana, or knowledge; Jnana, the object of knowledge, or that which is known; and the knower. He elaborates that actions consist of 3 components: the instruments of action, the purpose of work, and the agent of work. Continuing his explanation to Arjuna, Krishna says that knowledge, action, and the doer of action are classified into 3 types based on the dominance of each guna in them, and he invites Arjuna to hear about these classifications. The knowledge with the help of which one sees the one indestructible reality in all beings, although divided into countless forms, is said to be sattvic or pure. The knowledge by which one perceives all beings, various entities of distinct kinds, as being different from one another without any underlying unity, is known to be born of rajas. Nevertheless, what is termed tamasic is when an individual clings to a single object as if it were everything, devoid of reason and indifferent to truth, displaying a trivial nature. Actions performed in accordance with scriptures, devoid of attachment or aversion, and without a desire for rewards, are classified as sattvic. On the other hand, actions driven by selfish motives, fueled by ego and pride, or carried out under great stress are labeled rajasic. Lastly, actions performed in a state of delusion, neglecting both scriptures and personal abilities, and without considering the potential consequences of loss or harm, are regarded as tamasic. One characterized with no attachment and ego, coupled with determination and enthusiasm, and who remains unaffected by outcomes of success or failure, is considered to possess a sattvic nature. Conversely, a doer motivated by passion, driven by the desire for rewards, displaying cruelty, greed, impurity, and susceptibility to happiness and sorrow, is categorized as rajasic in nature. Meanwhile, a doer who exhibits characteristics of being materialistic, undisciplined, unstable, despondent, obstinate, inflexible, fraudulent, spiteful, indecent, lethargic, and prone to procrastination is recognized as a person of tamasic nature. Krishna announces to Arjuna that he will now elaborate the 3 different divisions of the intellect and determination of people based on the 3 gunas. He defines the kind of understanding through which one realizes the path of work and renunciation, and what should and should not be done, what to fear and not to fear, and what leads to bondage and liberation as sattvic. Krishna continues by saying that the intellect that incorrectly comprehends dharma and adharma, unable to distinguish between actions to be done and those to be avoided, is rajasic. Lastly, Krishna states that the intellect shrouded in darkness and ignorance, leading to a distorted perception of dharma and adharma, is considered tamasic. Bhagavan explains to Arjuna that the strong determination achieved through yoga to control the mind, life force, and the senses is considered pure and sattvic. On the other hand, Bhagavan tells Arjuna that the will with which one clings to result-driven actions and the gratification of the senses in duty, religion, and economic development is rajasic. Thirdly, Bhagavan describes the determination with which a foolish person does not give up sleep, fear, sadness, despair and pride as tamasic. Krishna goes on to tell Arjuna that he will explain the three kinds of pleasure in which the self in the body enjoys and ultimately finds relief from all pain. He proceeds to describe that the pleasure which initially appears as poison but at the end turns out to be nectar is known as sattvic. This type of pleasure is born from one's pure intellect, rooted in self-realization. The pleasure, which at first seems like nectar due to the interaction of the senses with sense objects, but later turns out to be poison, is called rajasic. Finally, Bhagavan states that the pleasure that obscures self-realization from the beginning to the end, arising from sleep, indolence and delusion, is declared to be tamasic. Bhagavan emphasizes that there is no being on earth, in celestial realms, or even among deities who is free from these three gunas or qualities that originate from nature. Krishna continues addressing Arjuna. He explains that the duties of Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras are allocated in accordance with their respective qualities and abilities, which are determined by their own gunas. Note: these duties are not predetermined by one's birth into a particular family. Instead, they are based on an individual's overall nature, attitude, aptitude, as well as their inherent qualities and abilities. Each person is born with distinct inherent qualities. The shlokas talk about the varnas and not the despicable caste system followed by certain societies. Varnas encompass four broad classifications of individuals rooted in the distinctive blend of the three gunas, shaping their overall mental constitution. Dismissing misconceptions and grasping the true essence of varnas is crucial. This understanding significantly aids individuals in their journey of self-discovery, allowing them to explore their inherent guna composition rather than conforming to external impositions. Each person is born with a distinct blend of gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas, influencing their perception, thoughts and actions. In chapter 15, I spoke about the establishment of the fundamental traits and qualities that form the innate nature of an individual during the formation of the diploid, which subsequently develops into their embryo. People's innate nature varies widely, from immense courage to extreme timidity, and from boundless kindness to sheer malice. Everyone is just different and has their own individual nature. An army commander would hesitate to deploy an individual on the war front line, regardless of being the son of a valiant soldier, if lacking courage and robust physical health. Similarly, a person devoid of compassion and patience wouldn't suit the job of a nurse. An exemplary teacher embodies knowledge, kindness, calmness, effective communication, generosity, and a genuine love for children. However, what is noteworthy is that while individuals are born with inherent qualities, these can evolve or transform, implying a potential change in one's varna. Among the numerous examples is the instance of sage Valmiki, who transitioned from being a bandit to an enlightened ascetic, contributing to humanity the timeless epic, the Valmiki Ramayana. While excessive rajas and tamas may lead to downfall, isolating oneself and not doing anything isn't the solution. Acquiring a deep understanding of one's mental makeup safeguards the person from being a square peg in a round hole or a round peg in a square hole. By analyzing our innate tendencies, we can channel them into productive actions beneficial to society, ensuring not only our well-being but also prosperity. It is extremely essential to bear in mind that no varna is lower or higher than the others. In order to establish this fact, Krishna said in chapter 15 that wise people treat equally a learned and humble brahmana, a cow, an elephant, and even a person who cooks and eats dog meat, transcending social distinctions and hierarchies. Divinity exists equally, not only among humans, but also among all living beings and even non-living things. Brahman is all-pervading. Back to the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. For Brahmanas, their work is associated with qualities such as peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, honesty, kindness, forgiveness, knowledge, and divine realization. Kshatriyas, on the other hand, are characterized by bravery, power, splendor, determination, deftness, generosity, leadership, and the commitment to never flee the battleground, all stemming from their inherent nature. Vaishyas find their natural duties in farming, rearing cattle, and trade guided by their own qualities. Those with the traits of Shudras naturally engage in service-oriented work. Everyone has their own path to attain the ultimate goal of self-realization. Krishna emphasizes that people can achieve perfection by diligently fulfilling their duties in alignment with their innate nature. By dedicating oneself to their work, they effectively worship the Supreme Bhagavan, who is omnipresent and the source of all beings. Excelling in their assigned tasks becomes the path to attaining perfection. Krishna advises Arjuna that it is preferable to carry out one's own duty, even if done imperfectly, rather than performing another person's duty perfectly. Those who act in alignment with their innate nature are not subject to karmic consequences. Arjuna is reminded that every task may have imperfections, similar to how fire is obscured by smoke, but individuals should not forsake duties based on their inherent nature, even if they notice imperfections. Those who exhibit self-control, detachment, and freedom from desires attain the highest state of liberation through renunciation. Krishna informs Arjuna that he will provide a concise teaching on how a person who has achieved perfection can also attain Brahman, the supreme state of transcendental knowledge. He describes such an individual as one with pure intellect who exercises control over their mind with determination, renounces attachment and aversion, embraces solitude, reduces food to just what is necessary, maintains complete control over speech, body and mind, engages their mind in constant concentration and meditation, seeks refuge in dispassion, discards egoism, false pride, violence, lust, anger and possessiveness, and attains a state of peace. Krishna emphasizes that a person with these attributes is well suited to attain Brahman. He proceeds to explain that having become one with Brahman, a person attains a state of serenity with the self, free from lamentation and desire. In this state, they treat all beings equally and achieve supreme devotion to Krishna. Bhagavan emphasizes that genuine knowledge of him is only attainable through love and devotion. Those who know him in this manner immediately merge with him. Krishna mentions that his devotees, despite being engaged in various forms of work, find refuge in him. As a result, they receive his protection and grace, ultimately reaching the highest and eternal abode of moksha. Krishna advises Arjuna to use the yoga of his intellect to consecrate all actions to him. He encourages Arjuna to make him the ultimate goal and to be wholeheartedly devoted to him, ensuring constant protection. He stresses the importance of unwavering awareness of his presence, assuring that such consciousness helps overcome obstacles through his divine grace. However, Krishna states that due to pride and ego, should Arjuna disregard his counsel, he will be ruined. If Arjuna were to think that he would not fight, it would only mean that he is filled with egoism. It is a vain thought, and it is his conceit that is making him say so. Arjuna's nature will compel him, says Bhagavan, who confirms to Arjuna that even actions he is reluctant to undertake due to a deluded mind will be performed involuntarily by him, driven by his inherent nature. He further elucidates that the Supreme Bhagavan resides within the hearts of all beings. According to their individual karmic paths, he guides their journeys through his illusory power, just like a machine's operation. Krishna advises Arjuna to take refuge in the Supreme and completely surrender his body, mind and soul. Through Krishna's grace, Arjuna will attain ultimate peace and attain the eternal abode. Bhagavan Krishna conveying to Arjuna that he has imparted to him profound and confidential wisdom, advises him to reflect deeply on his teachings and make his choices accordingly. These words of Krishna are alone sufficient to prove that the Srimad Bhagavad Gita is no book of commandments or religious codes. Krishna expresses his affection for Arjuna and instructs him to focus his mind on him, maintain unwavering devotion, and through this dedication, Arjuna will surely reach him, as he holds a special place in Krishna's heart. Bhagavan then makes a powerful statement to Arjuna that he should give up all his ideas and preconceived notions of life, biases, righteousness and religion, and to take complete refuge in him, promising liberation from all karmic consequences. He assuringly asks Arjuna to not despair. Note, Shloka 1866 is often taken too literally, and people end up being drowned in dualistic worship of Krishna. The shloka in Sanskrit goes like this: Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshishyami ma shachaha. To interpret this shloka in a summarized form, we could say that Krishna is asking Arjuna to give up all that he might have been believing in earlier, to internalize the teachings of Krishna and to become one with him. As the amazing Srimad Bhagavad Gita nears its conclusion, Krishna imparts to Arjuna the sensitivity of the knowledge he has shared. He advises that this confidential wisdom should not be disclosed to those lacking in austerity, devotion, or spiritual engagement. It should also not be revealed to individuals displaying hostility towards spirituality or harboring envy towards Krishna. Bhagavan declares that those who delve into this Dharma Samvadam, or sacred dialogue on righteousness, worship him through Jnana Yajna, or the Yajna or sacrifice of knowledge, which simply means worshipping Krishna through their intellect. Such worship is deemed the highest. Even someone who attentively listens to this divine conversation with sincere faith and without malice will attain liberation. People usually make material offerings to Krishna to show their love for him, but by studying the dialectic discourse of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, they would be offering their whole self to become one with him. Krishna highlights the profound love and sacrifice offered to him by those who impart this supreme philosophy to his devotees. He emphasizes that such individuals hold a special place in his heart, and no one else can surpass their devotion. Bhagavan Shri Krishna's concluding words in the Supreme Scripture are in the form of a question to Arjuna. Bhagavan addresses Arjuna as Dhananjaya, signifying the conqueror of the wealth of knowledge. He asks Arjuna if he has listened with undivided attention, absorbed the teachings, and whether his confusion born of ignorance has been dispelled. Arjuna, with reverence, acknowledges Krishna as the perfect one. He affirms that his confusion has indeed been destroyed and that he has regained his memory thanks to Krishna's divine benevolence. Arjuna expresses his resolute commitment and unwavering assurance to act in alignment with Bhagavan Shri Krishna's guidance. At the end of narrating the events on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Sanjaya says to King Dhritarashtra that he has heard the wonderful dialogue between Krishna or Vasudeva and the great-hearted Partha or Arjuna. He expresses his emotions by saying that the message is so wonderful that his hair is standing on end. Sanjaya acknowledges that it has been through the grace of sage Vedavyasa that he has had the privilege to directly hear this most confidential and supreme discourse from Sri Krishna, the Bhagavan of Yoga himself. He adds that he repeatedly recalls the divine dialogue between the Supreme Bhagavan Krishna and Arjuna and rejoices again and again. Sanjaya expresses that he is repeatedly awestruck and filled with joy when remembering the most wonderful cosmic form of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. In the concluding shloka of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Sanjaya expresses his unwavering certainty that wherever Krishna, the master of yoga, and Arjuna, the supreme archer, are present, prosperity, happiness, victory, and righteousness are bound to follow. Thus ends the 18th part of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Yoga of Liberation, the Science of the Eternal, the Scripture of Yoga, the dialogue between Bhagavan Shri Krishna and Arjuna. Hari Om Tat Sat. Echoing the wisdom of revered ancient teachers, the analogy of a sculptor chiseling a statue from a rock carries profound meaning. The concealed form inherent in the rock demands the discerning eye of the sculptor, coupled with skill, dedication, and patience, to unveil the exquisite statue. Similarly, enlightenment is not about acquiring new knowledge from somewhere else. Rather, it involves revealing what already resides within our understanding but has only been shrouded. In the vast haystack of life, similar to a person searching for a lost diamond ring, our journey unfolds in a quest to reveal the brilliance within. The layers of ignorance, beliefs, and misinformation act as the hay that obscures the precious knowledge waiting to be uncovered. Much like the seeker persistently clearing the haystack to find the ring, our path involves peeling away the veils that shroud the innate wisdom within all of us. The complete essence of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita can be distilled into a single shloka, as demonstrated by none other than Sri Ramana Maharshi in response to a seeker's inquiry about its feasibility. The Maharshi pointed to Shloka 10:20 of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says in Shloka 10:20, I am the Self, Arjuna, situated within all living entities. I am the origin, middle, and also the end of all beings. This profound truth encapsulates the core teachings, leading us to recognize the divine essence not only within ourselves, but existing equally in all living beings and everywhere. What is the liberation that Krishna teaches ways to attain? It is the liberation from being a slave to one's own mind, ego, or assumed I, and from the ignorance of one's true self. The mind can be called a certain pattern of thoughts based on one's gunas with which one is born. The particular blend of the three gunas that forms the inherent nature of a person happens by chance. One of my revered teachers would always say, in the study of philosophy, never ask why, but ask how. It is because the why question, coupled with duality, is the one that leads to fictional stories, the belief in them, the emergence of godmen, godwomen, and the cults that come along with them. The ego is a version of the I that the mind projects, primarily hindering a person from coming to terms with situations. This stems from the perception of deserving better based on the projected version of their I. Consequently, when they are attached to objects and fail to acquire them, their inability to reconcile with the situation affects their state of mind. In the second chapter, Krishna advised Arjuna that attachment to sense objects gives rise to desires, leading to anger, delusion, confusion of memory, and the destruction of intelligence, ultimately resulting in a person's downfall. Once a seeker eliminates all elements of mysticism or religion typically associated with terms like liberation, moksha, or salvation, clarity emerges. By simply discarding the assumed I and realizing one's divinity pervasive in all living beings and non-living entities, they attain the highest state. As Krishna stated at the end of chapter 2, the individual who renounces attachment to all sense objects, lives without a sense of ownership, and is free from false pride, achieves peace. This spiritual state, known as the Brahmi Sthiti or Brahmi state, dispels confusion from the mind and facilitates the attainment of nirvana in the Supreme Brahman. Therefore, liberation, synonymous with moksha or nirvana, is a sthiti or state of the mind, of course. Consider a past situation that was so complex and stressful it caused you palpitations, heartburns, fear, and anger. Seeking reassurance from a friend who listened to you patiently suddenly made you feel better, even though the situation remained unchanged. What happened is that you learned to come to terms with the situation, at least for a short time, helping you push emotions away and think more clearly. Although what I've said so far might sound easily relatable and not too complicated, the journey to comprehend this profound truth does require navigating through multiple mental layers of beliefs, fears, superstitions, preconceptions, and misleading information. In his patient guidance to Arjuna, Krishna leads him through three pivotal stages, with the pinnacle being the third, the attainment of Atma-Jnana, the ultimate knowledge of the all-pervading self, or the Supreme Brahman personified as Bhagavan Shri Krishna. In contrast to organized religions that lay belief and obedience as their main conditions, the Srimad Bhagavad Gita transcends such unintellectual notions. Krishna never demands blind belief or ritualistic practices. Instead, at the end of his discourse, he asks Arjuna, who represents us, to fully reflect on what he has heard and to do what he wishes to do. That is the true freedom on the path of seeking knowledge, as opposed to becoming a mental slave to any belief system, religion, or cult. Be free, embrace the path of knowledge, live life, love life, and relish as well as celebrate every moment of it. I wish you a wonderful, peaceful, and enriching life ahead, blessed with happiness, great health, freedom, peace, and prosperity. Jai Shri Krishna. Takeaways from Bhagavan Krishna's teachings in a nutshell. Unlocking the wisdom within. Discard cowardice and other emotions and perform your duty without expectations. Approach every task as an offering to Krishna, ensuring your best effort. Let social responsibility be your guiding principle in all your actions. Revere those who use reason and logic to explain profound truths. Seek understanding through questioning. Understand the three gunas or qualities, sattva or goodness, rajas or passion, and tamas or ignorance, born of prakriti or nature. They tightly bind the immutable embodied self in the body. Acknowledge that your actions originate from the blend of the three gunas within you. Your self is the observer. Actions result from the interaction of sense organs with sense objects. Dedicate all your actions to the Supreme Brahman or Krishna, relinquishing attachment to works to remain untouched by karma, like a lotus leaf unaffected by water. Master the mind. When controlled, it becomes the best friend, but uncontrolled, it transforms into the worst enemy. Abandon the three gates of hell, lust, greed, and anger. Completely discard them. Recognize the connection of everything to Krishna, symbolizing the thread of existence. Understand the unseen truth as the Svarupa or original state, and all that is seen as the Vibhuti or manifestation of Brahman or Krishna. Genuine comprehension of Krishna's teachings is rare. Aspire to be among those who truly understand the philosophy. Reject misconceptions of the all-pervading Krishna having a specific form. Proper understanding transcends such notions. Realize that Krishna is the self in all beings. True vision perceives divinity equally existing everywhere. Shed all feelings of entitlement and embrace your role as a mere instrument. Engage in work with absolute confidence and zero fear. Acknowledge that the Srimad Bhagavad Gita is not a rule book. Krishna invites reflection on his discourse, empowering Arjuna to choose his course of action. Stay blessed. Jai Shri Krishna.